I call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with that, we'll move into roll call.
Adams. Here. Albert. Here. Anderson. Here. Armstrong. Here. Belk. Bergson. Here. Bowler. Here. Bothwell.
Here.
Brown. Here. Carpenter.
Here.
Okay. Cole.
Here.
Colgleiser. Cruz.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
DeMoranville.
Here.
Dunfield.
Here.
Filbert. Gammon. Grover.
Here.
Hammond.
Here.
Harp.
Here.
Heatherman.
Here.
Hildreth.
Here.
Hopfinger. Javin.
Here.
Karmali.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
King.
Here.
Kadira. Conrad. Kulkarni.
Here.
Leverett.
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Needry.
Here.
Orth.
Here.
Orzakowski.
Here.
Pelton.
Here.
Penny.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Riffle.
Here.
Roman.
Here.
Smith. Spellman.
Here.
Spencer.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Chumlin.
Here.
Tuttle.
Here.
Valdez.
Here.
Wessel.
Here.
Wilhelm.
Here.
Yoganandan. All right, thanks.
All right, with that, we'll move into first open period. Our first open period speaker tonight is Bill Spiegel from KSU Recycling.
As you know, I was here about a month ago, and I know everybody can't hear this, but that should be the answer right there. That should give us our answer right there, what we did. It's powered. We won it. We just didn't do it just a little bit. We actually beat our last year's ranking substantially. You'll see it in the next I got about 60 slides, hope you don't mind. I'm on the book till 8 o'clock. So, we did it all. I mean, we worked together between students, faculty, custodians, housing and dining, athletics, residence halls. We all worked together and pulled this off. So it was great. I tell you, you can't beat it. Next slide. There we go. As you can see, total, this is a Big 12 standing. So this is how we beat number 2, Texas. I could say number 2, Texas. Because last year we finished off number 82. 82, and this year we jumped up to number 35. So that is very impressive. We almost went half. So that is very good. I don't have the previous ones, but if you go on our website, you can find them all out there. Texas, we beat them a little over by 8,600 pounds. Very good, but it was good competition. As you can see, our competitor about 100 miles east of here never even shows up with it. So I don't even care about them. But we won number 1 in total recycling, diversion, per capita, and in the state. So that's bragging rights right there, I tell you. Because Texas has 54,000 students compared to our 24,000. So we did better than they did with half the amount. So that is very good, and I'm very impressed. And I say thank you to all of you, because everybody says, Bill, how'd you do it? I didn't do it. We do it as a team. There's no I in team. We do it together. Next slide, please. You can show we went from number 86 to number 35 with a 45% diversion rate in 8 weeks. That's outstanding. I tell you, that is good teamwork, no matter what we do together. And I appreciate it. Since 2011, when I took over, that's where we were at, 226. So in 7 years, we wound up to number 35. Very good. Is there still room for improvement? There's always room for improvement. There's always. Will I always get 100%? No, but I sure try. I tell you, women, people hear me everywhere, I tell you. And I do thank you. Next slide, please. So a big thanks to the students, faculty, and the custodians who pick all this stuff up year-round, but especially during the 8-week periods during this competition. That's what makes it together, the teamwork. And I do appreciate it, and that's all I have. I don't have 60 slides, I only have 4. But I do want to say thank you, and I appreciate it.
Are there any questions for Bill Spiegel?
But don't forget, you'll see me next year, too.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Our next group is from the Leadership, Culture, and Context class, talking to us about counseling services. Tess Sharp, Sarah Lasner, Andrew Nevins, and Michael Duncan. Yep, go ahead.
evening. My name is Tess Sharp, and these are my partners Sarah, Michael, and Andrew. And we've been working on a research project for the majority of this last semester in our Lead 350 class, Leadership, Culture, and Context. The topic of our project is mental health here at K-State, and we'd like to open a dialogue with the SGA and the Counseling Services Department to see about how we could better advocate for the many resources that the Counseling Services Department offers our students here at K-State. This presentation will include a little bit of a discussion on some statistics citing the prevalence of mental illnesses in college-age students, as well as focus on two main avenues for how we can better accommodate our students here. These two avenues are, one, increasing the general awareness of the existing services provided through K-State's counseling department, and two, developing strategies to predict and prepare for the influx of students who are in need of services here at K-State.
The reason we are bringing this issue to SGA is because several research articles agree that the general trend of mental health has substantially increased among college students in the past 20 years. To quote the research journal Medical News and Perspectives, data from 11 universities in the Big 11 have displayed a rough increase of 42% in the number of students struggling with mental health issues. This was almost 15 years ago. In a more current research article, the Journal of Affective Disorders, the rate has risen to 1 in 3 students. Big-name schools are getting in front of this crisis by developing strategies to better accommodate students struggling with mental health disorders. For example, MIT has what they call a screening process that not only requests previous medical records, including mental health, but also sends out required questionnaires to assess the mental health of incoming freshmen to better inform their counseling service strategies.
Switching over to our counseling services, we wanted to get a look at what outreach/marketing strategies that they use currently. In their response to our email inquiry, surrounding their marketing strategies, they mentioned that they use social media daily, they use presentations, and they do several outreach events. While the work that they're doing is very effective, we would like to open the discussion for the possibilities for how counseling services could expand upon those.
We have considered ideas the Counseling Services Department could look into promoting awareness. One such idea is an online awareness program that would be required of all students attending Kansas State University surrounding mental health management and recognition, and we would recommend that more than likely for freshman and junior years. And this would be similar to the alcohol and drugs and sexual assault course required before enrollment. The course would cover some of the basic terms regarding emotional and interpersonal health scenarios, managing stress and anxiety, and knowing when to seek the proper resources such as medication and counseling services. A screening process such as the one done at MIT is another possibility to consider. An increase in widespread flyers, including more information regarding what counseling services do, such as their website, which is a hub for vital information on resources. All of this could be beneficial. Other ideas include an e-blast sent to all K-State students regarding events, classes, and sources on a weekly or even monthly basis. And this would be another way to increase awareness as well. And these are just a few of the ideas that we have considered.
We thank you guys for hearing us out this evening and want to remind you all that we are in no way, shape, or form speaking on behalf of the Counseling Services Department, but rather pointing out some areas of improvement. We want to stress that the Counseling Services Department is doing a great job with their resources right now, and they're a vital portion of student life here at K-State. They're doing what they can with what they have at the moment, and we hope to have brought your attention a little bit more to this issue. Thank you again for your time.
Are there any questions for our first open period speakers? If not, Sen Valdez.
So one of the issues with the ASAP is that a lot of people just click through it and don't really gain anything from it. Do you know if there's any ways that other schools or that you've researched have done to prevent that from being the case for these mental health modules?
I would say we don't know specifically what that is, but similar to we already have to do the alcohol EDU and the drug and sexual assault one. So what's to say that those aren't important? Because if they're just clicking through those, mental health is also an issue we should be talking about. So just bringing that, and maybe not everybody does that. So just bringing that issue to the level that alcohol and drug and sexual assault is.
And even just talking about even if you're just clicking through, you're still gaining some kind of information. And so that's kind of the goal, that even if you don't sit and go through it like you probably should, you're at least gaining some kind of information that would be beneficial for the students.
Attorney General Hanneman.
First of all, thank you all for coming and talking to us tonight. My question for you is, how would you like SGA to help in accomplishing some of these goals? I think you guys did an awesome job, but I'm kind of confused as to where you would like to go from here.
So what we want to gain from this experience is just to bring every person in this room your awareness to the issue that not all students maybe know about all the resources that are available here at K-State, and then maybe taking some action to increase the marketing and possibly develop some new strategies for how our students could become more aware of the services they're entitled to here.
Awesome, thank you.
Director, Moore, sorry.
So I completely agree that awareness is a huge issue when it comes to our students knowing about counseling services. Did any of your research include metrics of evaluating how our students at Kansas State are aware of any of them? Did you do any surveys or anything of that sort?
We were actually planning on doing a survey. Our professor for our class told us to move away from that because we're not certified by IBM. So since we don't have that certification, we're not technically legally allowed to do a survey of that sort.
Thank you.
Senator Cole.
Is this what the rest of your Lead 350 class is focusing on?
No. So part of Lead 350 is have multiple CBAR projects and multiple different CBAR groups. So this
CBAR stands for Community-Based Action Research Project.
Sorry. So this is what our CBAR group focused on, and multiple other CBAR groups focused on something completely different.
Director Kuchera.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for coming and speaking to us. I'm going to speak with you afterwards to get your contact information because I think there are some projects that we can connect you into, and Ready Hands are fantastic, and so glad that you're passionate about increasing this awareness of counseling services.
Further questions? If not, thank you for coming tonight. With that, our next item of business is approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed via email this week. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve? Senator Bothwell?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the minutes. If there are no objections, the minutes will be approved as presented. With that, we'll move into announcements. We've got a long list of announcements this week. I apologize for that. First, I want to make you all aware that K-State IT is beginning their strategic planning process and is interested in hosting a focus group of SGA members to provide input. They are offering a focus group session on Monday, April 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Willing to provide pizza to up to 12 people. If you're interested, please RSVP to Kelly Moon. Her email is included in the agenda. Next up, K-State Gender Collective is hosting a transgender education workshop on April 28th from 1 to 5 p.m. in the Big 12 room. This half-day workshop is a great opportunity for anyone who wants to know more about what it means to be transgender by learning how to use respectful and accurate language about transgender identities, as well as the issues that transgender members in our Manhattan and K-State community face. Participants will be better equipped to act as allies to the transgender community. Also, tonight we have the election of the Speaker of the Student Senate and Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate. Just to review the process that we will go through tonight, we're going to have each candidate recap their campaign platforms. They'll have 5 minutes to present that. And then they will leave. We will go into debate on candidates, altering with one in favor of one candidate, then in favor of the next, back and forth between candidates. Lastly, voting requires a majority vote to win. So since we only have 2 candidates, we only need to take 1 vote for speaker. Next is Speaker Pro Tempore. We're going to kind of condense the speaker process into one night, consisting of a 10-minute speech and questions on their platforms, and then debate on candidates alternating again. And then lastly, same voting requirements, majority vote needed to win. Lastly, there's several applications that will be open until tomorrow at midnight. That is the cabinet application. Sorry, tomorrow at 5 p.m.
No, it's midnight.
Midnight. Tomorrow at midnight. I was correct the first time. Due tomorrow at midnight, that's the cabinet application, the Senate Executive Committee application, and the SGA Treasurer application. Also, proxies for tonight, Thomas for Bowen, and one change from the agenda, King for Morgan is replacing Spellman for Orzakowski. With that, upcoming events calendar, TFSC is meeting the next 2 Tuesdays, and the final Student Senate meeting of the semester will be next Thursday at 7 p.m. The quote of the week this week is from Martin Luther King Jr. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. With that, we will move into approval of the appointments. Is there a motion for Resolution 1? Speaker Pro Tempore Magnani, welcome back.
I move we consider Resolution 1.
Okay. I apologize. I'm not sure I can have you make a motion since you're not a senator this year. Is there someone else who would be interested in making that motion? Senator Valdez?
Move Resolution 1.
Second.
Send out your old news.
It is moved and seconded to consider Resolution 1. Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 1819-1, approval of new student senators by Jonathan Pushin. I can add my name on that since you need a senator. Whereas Lacey Pitts has chosen to resign the position as student senator for the College of Agriculture, and whereas Reed Huffman has the next highest vote total in the College of Agriculture, whereas Paige Garrity has chosen to resign to the position of student senator for the College of Education, whereas Tel Whitmer has the next highest vote total in the College of Education, whereas Jordan Keel has chosen to resign the position of student senator for the College of Engineering, and whereas Orion Tayel has the next highest vote total in the College of Engineering. Be it resolved that Section 1, Reed Huffman be approved as a student senator for the College of Agriculture. Section 2, Tel Whitner be approved as a student senator for the College of Education. And Section 3, this has some edits. Okay. And Section 3, Orion Tayel be approved as a student senator for the College of Engineering.
We will renumber those sections and strike line 27. Are there further corrections? If not, is there any debate on Resolution 1? Senator Roman.
Do I still need to be sworn in?
Yes. We'll be there in one quick second. Once we get this approved, we'll swear everybody who missed last week plus these 3 people. So with that, is there a motion to approve this resolution unanimously? Senator Bothwell?
I move that we approve this resolution unanimously.
It is moved and seconded to approve this resolution unanimously. If there are no objections, it will be approved unanimously. With that, if we can have everyone who did not get sworn in last week, plus our 3 new members for this week, please come to the front. All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. Sorry, don't repeat after me. Say I will. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of student senator and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association. Awesome. With that, let me grab the microphone and name, major, hometown, favorite smell.
My name's Sarah Pelton, and my major is marketing. And my hometown is Paradise, Kansas, and my favorite smell is the new car smell.
Hey guys, I'm Molly Kermolly. I'm a freshman from Overland Park, Kansas, studying chemical engineering. Favorite smell is cinnamon.
I'm Jordan Martin, majoring in computer science and mathematics. I'm from Spring Hill, Kansas, and my favorite smell is freshly baked snickerdoodle cookies.
My name's Tel Whitmer. I'm a freshman from Holton, Kansas, studying secondary education, and my smell hasn't changed from last semester. Anyways, for those wondering what my smell is, so it's kind of hard to explain. You just have to like meet my grandmother, right? So it's like you just when you hug your grandma and you're like, grandma. So that's my favorite smell.
I don't know how to follow that one up, but I'm Natalie Jabin. I am from Olathe, Kansas, and I am a freshman in political science and philosophy. And my favorite smell is fresh laundry out of the dryer. Anybody?
Hi, I'm Nathan King. I'm a sophomore here at K-State. I'm from Troy, Kansas. If you don't know where that's at, it's up in the little squiggly corner in the northeast. But my major is in journalism and mass communications, and my favorite smell is that smell like right before it rains. That's my favorite smell.
Hi, I'm Heather Albers. I'm from Warrensburg, Missouri. I'm studying apparel and textile marketing, and my favorite smell is someone else cooking for me.
Hey everyone, my name is Paloma Roman. I'm a athletic training major and I'm from Garden City. And my favorite smell is those things you buy, like the happy trees or whatever they're called. But the Hawaiian smell, those always have like really anything Hawaiian, like a candle you buy that's Hawaiian, that citrusy smell.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marie Armstrong. I'm a graduate student. I'm working on my Master's of Public Health with emphasis in food safety and biosecurity. I know that's a lot to say. So my favorite smell, I've been debating between cinnamon rolls, snickerdoodles, clean linen, and I think I messed something up. Lemon. Yes, okay.
Hi guys, my name is Reed Huffman. I'm a sophomore from Jacksonville, Illinois, studying animal science, and my favorite smell is probably like a fresh, like spring morning.
All right, I am Matthew Zukowski. I'm a junior in industrial engineering and political science, and I'm from Olathe. And my favorite smell would be Colorado mountains, just like fresh air. So,
I'm Arian Tayal. I'm a freshman in computer engineering, and I'm from Overland Park. And my favorite smell would be the set of new fresh tires.
All right, with that, we will move on to director's reports. Student Body President Keel.
Hi, everyone. I'm first going to ask that everyone please shut their laptops and really pay attention to what I'm going to say. And just listen. I know there's a lot of concern going around the room, but I first want everyone to take a second to just look at the people next to you. Look at the people that you know and that you don't know. This is our Senate. This is Senate for this year. And this room should always cultivate diversity of thought and people challenging each other and debate and everything that we've asked for in the last year. And this is the year that we're going to have it. And I believe in this Senate, and I believe that that's what we're going to have. And you might be asking, why is she getting up here and saying all this? Why is she talking about our Senate and all of this kind of stuff? But I really want that to be the focus so that we don't lose our vision in those debates or in conflict, because once we lose that, we lose our purpose of serving students and serving this university. And that's why we're all here at the end of the day. And I believe every single person deep down in their heart is here for those reasons. And that's why we care so much about what we're doing. So the reason I'm saying all this, I know there's concern about who I chose as my chief of staff. And those are such valid concerns, and I understand why they're there. And I don't want to dismiss those. But I also want to take the second, well, it's going to be more than a second, but take this time to really explain the process of how we got there, what that looked like, and why that individual was chosen. So, to start off, we knew chief of staff was going to be a very important position that we selected, and as such, we tried to push out those applications to anyone and everyone that we knew. Usually it's a tweet. This year we pushed social media, emails, student body listserv. We asked Student Life to nominate students and give us their names. We asked individuals to reach out to those that they knew. Old and new Senate was all aware that the application was out, and we really tried to push that in as many ways as we could. Based on that, the applicants, every single applicant was interviewed. They were all based on a rubric score of their experience, the ideas they brought forward, as well as the questions that they answered and how that looked. And it was not an easy decision. It was not something that I came to lightly. Lacey and I and Heather debated it for a long time. We sat there and thought of every angle and every experience and how that would add into the final decision. And so I just want to make that clear as well. The chief of staff is someone that works very internally with the executive branch. They're someone that is there to guide and help cabinet move forward with their initiatives and projects. And as such, it's really important that that individual has a lot of experience working with administrators and knowing what it's like to work in cabinet and have those open-ended projects. Because when they don't, and I was one of those individuals when I was selected as chief of staff, it really hinders the ability of cabinet to get their work done. And it delays a lot of those projects because they have to first learn how to direct cabinet and where they should go. And so when that individual doesn't have that experience yet, that then delays everything else that cabinet can do. Miranda Moore was chosen. She was chosen because of her position as academic affairs in the past year, what she brought to the interview, her experience in other organizations and at K-State in general and her major, but mainly because of how she has worked in cabinet and what that looks like for academic affairs. If anyone doesn't know beforehand, academic affairs, their basic duty was essentially to evaluate T-vals. And they would go to a meeting and say whether or not T-vals were good or not, and what that looked like for students. Miranda Moore completely changed and shaped that position as something so much more than that, working for students to make sure that every student on our campus has a good advising experience. And that was something that was really taken into consideration when she applied, and that's why part of the reason why she was selected. And if you know Miranda Moore at all, I don't think anyone can argue against her qualifications or what she's done for this campus. So if you don't know her, I'd really encourage you to have a conversation with her. All that being said, I know there are still concerns no matter who I picked, no matter what happens. I want to make sure that that individual is there to help cabinet, because I think if bottom line, we can all agree that there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of things that we need to do at K-State, and there's a lot of changes that need to be made. And part of that comes from cabinet being the most effective possible to be able to get that work done. And so that is why I chose a chief of staff that I believed would be that individual that could do that and really help us take cabinet a step forward, working on projects collaboratively, not just individuals siloed into each of their own.
Time for the speakers expires. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Bothwell.
I move we extend the speaker's time by 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. If there's no objections, you have 5 more minutes.
Thank you. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Basically, I needed someone in that position that could manage it and was ready to run with it, and that's why I picked her, and I will stand behind that. But I also don't want to dismiss the concerns that are in this room, and that's why you don't see that legislation on the agenda tonight. So all that being said, I'd appreciate anyone and everyone who has concerns or questions to please reach out, email me, text me, see me after the meeting. I would love to find a time to really sit down and understand what those concerns are and figure out a way that we can move forward, both as a Senate body and as an executive branch. I don't want anyone to feel like that position should just be dismissed or that it was in the decisions that I made for it. So I want to make sure that I can have that conversation with anyone and everyone that has questions. At the end of the day, I know that trust and respect takes time to earn, and I hope that none of you take this decision as a way to lose faith in the reason and purpose of why I'm here. I am here to fight for students and to serve students, and I will always be here to do that. And I needed a chief of staff that could help me accomplish a lot of those goals and help us as a Senate accomplish those goals, and as SGA as well. And I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for Student Body President Keel? Director Kuchera.
How will delaying the chief of staff legislation impact the interview process this Sunday?
It will not be delayed. Miranda does not have to be sworn in to participate in the interviews, and as such we're going to move forward, because if we delay it, we essentially won't have a cabinet until next fall, and I think we can all agree that would not best serve students.
Further questions? Seeing none, are there any further director's reports? If not, we will continue with our agenda, and our next item of business is general orders. With that, will our two candidates for Speaker of the Student Senate please come to the front? All right, with that, Faith, you have 5 minutes to recap your platforms, and then we'll have time for questions.
All right. Hello, everyone. If you don't remember me, my name is Faith Tuttle. So last week, I really outlined my platforms and my ideas for this position, and then I met with a lot of you one-on-one to really discuss in depth what I wanted to do. So in this right in here, I just wanted to focus on why I believe I would be the best candidate for Speaker. So I know last week there were some concerns that I wasn't a part of the Tuition and Fees Strategies Committee. I actually went to the meeting this past Tuesday, and from that, I'm even more convinced that I will be able to help co-chair this committee in the future. So I believe Tuition and Fees Strategies Committee is super important, but let's not focus on something that's only a semester long and only at most 2-hour week commitment. What about the other 28 hours that the speaker does for this position? There's so much more to being speaker. For example, they chair student senate meetings. So I have been in your chair for 2 years. I've seen the process, I know what I'm doing, and I think that will really serve me well in this position. Also, as you can see from my speeches the last couple of weeks, I have no qualms speaking in front of you guys, so I don't think that will be an issue. Another thing that they do is chair executive committee meetings. So I actually have a lot of experience in this aspect. In CRs, an organization that I'm a part of, every other week I lead the exec committee meetings, and I think that experience will really help me in this role, as this is not a new thing for me. What else does a speaker do? They make the agenda, which takes about 4 hours. And since they are one of the main contacts for people, the speaker has to respond to about an hour's worth of emails per day. Which, okay, let's be honest, literally anyone can do. It's just a matter of diligence. So what we really need in a speaker is diligence and dedication to the job at hand, which is me. I am willing and able to do the 30 hours a week necessary. I'm dedicated. And SGA, besides school, of course, will be my #1 priority. Other qualities that you should look for in a speaker are many that I exemplify. For example, I'm level-headed and even-tempered, and I think this will serve me well, as I'll be able to be objective and fair as speaker. I'm a team player, and I'm able to get along with everyone, even if their opinions are different from my own, and I think that's so important in this role. I'm willing to put in the work and do the work behind the scenes, because honestly, about 75% of what the speaker does is behind the scenes. It's a grunt work that most people don't even think about that they do. I'm approachable, so students can feel like they can ask me questions, and I'm willing to help all students. I can keep order and ensure that business is dealt with correctly. You don't have to be loud and flashy to do a good job as speaker. You just have to be dedicated and committed to the job at hand. For me, I can tell you with 100% certainty that this isn't just a stepping stone to student body president or something greater. I'm on track to graduate in 3.5 years, so this is it. This is my last full year in SGA, and this is the position I want, to just be able to serve you guys and to serve the student body. For me, this is completely genuine. I have no ulterior motives. I just love SGA with all my heart, and I want it to succeed and thrive on campus. That's why I'm running. So because of that, and since this is my last full year, I literally don't have much to gain spending 30 hours a week in this position. I could be getting an internship or gaining real-world experience for my job, but I'm not, because I genuinely care that much about SGA. And honestly, everything aside, that's what you want in a speaker. That level of dedication, the willingness to work extremely hard and put in the countless hours necessary to make us as a whole succeed, and the genuine desire to serve you. So that's me. That's what I bring to the table, and that's why I think I would be a great speaker. If that's the kind of person that you want to serve you, please consider voting for me tonight. Thank you, and with that, I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for Faith? Senator Martin?
We talked to any previous TFSC co-chairs about how much of a time commitment TFSC is?
Yeah, definitely. I talked to the previous speaker, Jonathan Pushin, about the time commitment, and it is a very good time commitment. It does take time. It is important. So yes, I have talked to someone that has been a co-chair.
Senator Grover, sorry.
How do you plan to promote or continue promoting diversity in SGA?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think diversity is extremely important in Senate. And I think the key to diversity is that diversity is just a result. You know, like the way that we achieve that, I believe, is by accessibility. And that's one of my main platforms. So I just think that having Senate accessible and making Senate accessible to everyone will really promote diversity and will get us that end result. So I think diversity is the end result and accessibility is the way to get there. So yeah, that's something I'm really committed to. Thank you.
Further questions? Attorney General Hanneman?
First of all, thanks for speaking and for running. I'm excited.
Yeah, no problem.
Second of all, I'm curious as to how you'd like to continue the cooperation that happened between the speaker, Speaker Pro Temp, President, Vice President, and Attorney General this last year.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like this past year, we had such a great collaboration between the branches, and I think that's something that we really, really want to continue. And honestly, I am down for whatever they see fit, but I think just meeting once a week together to make sure that we're on the same page and that we're doing the right things in order to have a collaborative, united front, I think is really important. Thank you.
Further questions, Senator Carpenter?
Thank you for sharing your ideas with us. You spoke about being a team player, and since this is going to be where you're spending the majority of your time here in this legislative branch, what are some ways that you'll be building relationships with us, your Senate, as a student speaker?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I would have to say that I'd just be open to, you know, you want to build a team and building like connections, and I think that one of the ways that we can do that is just, you know, being open and being able to talk to me, and you can come into my office if I do become speaker and just speak with everyone and just be able to have those connections and to build that relationship. I think is really important and really important to build the team spirit.
Senator Penny, I refer my speaking rights to Tendai. I would throw all that.
With that, are there further questions? Senator Heatherman.
Can you give an example of a time that you've worked with others to resolve a conflict?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. One thing that I did to help resolve a conflict, so I don't know if you remember, but in the beginning of the school year, we had some posters go around that were kind of very racist, to be frank. So one thing that I did is that the Young Dems and the College Republicans, they weren't having a united front. They wanted to make a joint statement. So one thing that I did is I had College Republicans and Young Dems work together, and we helped in our chalking effort to create a united front. And in those situations, sometimes it's easy to just, you know, blame the other side or like be very polarized like it is today. But I think what's really important is bipartisanship and working together, and that's something that I really value and would value in this position.
Senator Cole.
speaking of all the fun racist stuff that's happened, what have you done to like help the university move around that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think just being open and talking about it with other students and really having those conversations is really important and something that we've really worked in Senate and something that I've been a part of. Yeah.
Further questions? If there are no further questions, would you grab Ryan for us?
Yep.
I don't have the chance. All right. Ryan, you have 5 minutes to recap your campaign platforms, and then we have time for questions.
Awesome, thank you. So good evening, good Student Senate. For those of you who were not here last week for academic reasons or similar, welcome. For those of you who were not here in Student Senate last week because of Nick Jonas, welcome too. Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying. So tonight, I kind of want to talk about my platforms briefly, but more importantly, I want to talk about why. Those of you who know me well, you know that I like to sit in the same chair in Centers for Student Involvement and watch myself speak over and over and over again. Not in an arrogant way, in a way that I overly criticize myself. And when I watched my speech, what I noticed was I didn't talk about that why. I didn't talk about why I'm passionate for this position. So I want to speak to that a little bit tonight. When Senator Spencer, after last Senate meeting, came up and talked to me and talked to me about this project that she's doing in human ecology, great things, and she asked how to address our SJ advisor. Is it Dr. Harlan? Is it Mr. Harlan? Is it William? Her willingness to reach out and get out of her comfort zone and use me as a resource is why I want to be Speaker of the Senate. Or is it Senator Spellman? When Senator Spellman and I met a couple days ago, typical campaign talk about my platforms, we went into a 45-minute conversation about Tuition and Fee Strategies Committee, about some of the current issues revolving around the human ecology fee, and what I wanted to do within that committee. Senator Spellman is one of the reasons why I want to run for Speaker of the Student Senate. Or is it when Senator Kulkarni debated the intern bill last term? When Senator Kulkarni walked up to me 2 weeks before the intern bill would come before Senate, and he said, "Ryan, I want to debate it. I want to talk about it. I want to voice my opinion." When Senator Kulkarni was called up to the stand as Student Senator-elect Kulkarni, the wide grin on his face, the moving testimony he gave about why it's important for us to open up doors in Student Senate. And then when he got a round of applause, and when he came over and shook my hand, Senator Kulkarni is why I want to run for Speaker of the Student Senate. Individuals like these are not alone in this room. You all are doing amazing things, and all I want to do is serve as a resource to you all and reinforce the amazing things that you're going to do next term. I've been graced by amazing SJ mentors in my life that have gotten me to this point today. When I was an intern, my intern coordinator, Jordan Keel, my SJ mentor, Jordan Martin, and previous student body president, I guess, Jack Ayers. along with the rest of legislative, judicial, and executive leadership last term. They're the reason why I'm here and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. Without this support, I wouldn't be able to be in this position. I certainly wouldn't be comfortable speaking in front of all of you today. And I think that having people that serve as resources in those capacities is why we need to, I don't know, elect someone who knows the potential that's really in this room. So I kind of wanted to, I know that this 5 minutes is for a recap of platforms, so I feel like I should touch on those a bit. As Speaker of the Student Senate, and in really helping you all realize your potential as student senators, opening up access for all students, empowering you all to give you the tools that you need to be successful, and engaging you with the student body and with the work that we're doing is why I want to run for Speaker of the Student Senate. So, pretty brief, and I'd love to stand for any questions that you might have.
With that, are there any questions for Ryan? Attorney General Hanneman?
How do you look to forward the collaboration between the three branches this upcoming year?
Thank you, Haley. So I think that last term, our Attorney General, Haley Hanneman, did an amazing job making relevant the judicial branch and bringing it on the forefront of our conversations, even in Student Senate. I think that next year we need to utilize the amazing people that are moving into leadership positions, such as Peter Moyer, and brainstorming and coming up with ways that we accomplish that interbranch collaboration. Last Senate meeting, I talked a little bit about committees and the membership of committees and incorporating all voices into those things. But I think that when legislative leadership meets with judicial leadership and executive leadership, that's how we have the best conversations about how to move forward.
Further questions? Senator King.
Thank you, Ryan, for speaking. I have a question on, like, since we're further going to be like having this new intern bill, how do you plan on helping intern coordinators kind of carry that out within Senate? So there's a lot of new things with the Senate bill, so how do you plan on doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nathan. There's a lot in that Senate bill. You all know it's probably, 17 pages, something to that effect. The Special Committee on Membership really had the vision, right? We had the vision for where that program will go. I hope that the individuals applying for intern coordinators, and I know that they are passionate individuals who are dedicated to seeing that mission through. What I want to do is make sure that they have the resources to do so. So I talked briefly last week about a Special Committee on Education. That is something that was a recommendation from the Special Committee on Membership to serve as a resource for those intern coordinators, to help them logistically and help them with policy recommendations for the future. So in terms of the intern coordinators, I think that Special Committee will serve in that capacity. In terms of me, you better bet that every step of the way, I will be helping reinforce the work that the intern coordinators are doing by being present and being available and being accessible to all of those interns.
Further questions? Attorney General Hanneman.
Okay, so this last year, I think, has been really great in that we have been able to have very open conversations in this room, and it's been Jonathan's job to be an unbiased person in that position. And I know that you are very passionate about a lot of things on campus. How do you see yourself being unbiased in this room when some of those very heated conversations are happening?
You're very right. I am a very passionate person.
Not a bad thing.
No,
I'm just,
yeah. But realistically, I think that serving as a support mechanism for you all as student senators to accomplish what you want to do is what I will do as a Speaker of the Student Senate. There shouldn't be room for me to insert my opinion, well, in Student Senate, there shouldn't be room for me to insert my bias in the conversations that go on. What I should do is take in your input and provide resources and maybe some context into some of the things that we're talking about in this room. But then after that, all I am is a facilitator of conversation, and a facilitator of progress.
Further questions? If there's no further questions, Ryan, I will send you back to CSI and we will begin debate.
And I don't send Faith in?
Don't send Faith in. Nope. We'll send someone to go get you. We'll figure it out. All right. With that, we will move into debate on the two candidates. The normal rules for debate of 4 minutes and 3 minutes for questions will be used. With that, we will alternate between debate in favor of Faith or opposed to Ryan, and then in favor of Ryan, opposed to Faith. Does that make sense? Awesome. With that, I am looking for positive debate on Faith Tuttle. Senator Bothwell.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to brag on Faith a little bit. I think one of my favorite things about her after getting to know her this year is I think that she's a really humble person. And so last week after she gave her speech, I went and told her afterwards, I don't think you're bragging about yourself enough. I think that you have lots of accomplishments that you didn't bring up. And I think those are really important for this body to hear about what those are. So specifically, this whole semester, Faith has actually served as an intern in Topeka. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she's there from 6:30 to 6:30 every day. And she actually was an intern right under House Majority Leader Don Heineman. So she did a lot of work, not just here on campus this semester, but she actually was serving in Topeka too, helping represent students and coordinate a lot of work there. I think that was just a really important position, and it shows a lot of the effort and work that Faith is willing to go to when she works with people. She actually did that so much that she's actually interning in DC this summer. Again, she's working with the House Majority Whip there. So again, I just feel like Faith does a lot of great work. I'm really glad to have gotten to know her this year. I met her a couple weeks into serving as an intern, and she was super friendly. She was always helpful if I ever had questions about anything in student government. She was willing to answer those questions, and she was always just a great resource to me. By the end of this year, I consider Faith a good friend of mine. I'm really glad to have gotten to know her, and I feel like she would be great for this position. So I just wanted to give a short little boost in favor of Faith, let you guys know more about her. I think she's a great person, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Senator Bothwell? If not, is there debate in favor of Ryan? Senator Kulkarni.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Vedant Kulkarni. I'm here to speak in favor of Senator Ryan Kelly. Just before I start, I would like to let you know that I have spoken with both the candidates. I've spoken with Faith and I've spoken with Ryan, and I think both of them are really good. We should appreciate both of them. Speaking about Ryan, so when I joined the Accelerated Fellowship Program, Ryan was the first person I spoke with. I was totally new. There was no one I knew in the room, and he was the first person I spoke with, and his personality just reflected upon me. He was just so strong. He has such a great personality. He's passionate about K-State, as he mentioned, and well, I did not expect him to talk about me in his speech at all. That was really moving. Ryan is a really great team player. Everything he does, he splits it up with his team members. He's really helpful. I have texted him at literally 1 o'clock in the night, and by morning, before I woke up, I had my answer. I have met with him multiple times. I was so nervous when it came to running for Student Senate, but he was the one who always basically believed in me and told me that I can do it. And it's now my time to believe in him and basically brag about him. Ryan is the one who actually encouraged me to also run for Senate Exec Committee. And so one of the positions I'll be running for, as he said that he does correct himself when he feels he's wrong. While he's passionate about certain issues, I know that Ryan likes to take a neutral stand so that he hears both sides of an argument and then proceed. Senator Ryan is really well connected with all organizations on campus, may it be BSU, may it be ISA, may it be ISSS, multiple of them. He's really accessible. He has great connections, and basically, yeah, I believe he's the best fit for the position of Chief of Staff. Thank you. I stand for questions.
Any questions for Senator Kulkarni? If not, is there debate in favor of Faith? Senator King.
Hello. Hello, everybody. So I know a lot of you know that Faith and I kind of ran with each other during the Senate race, but I thought I'd just kind of give you guys a little bit of a backstory of how I first met Faith. So I met Faith whenever I was an intern in the intern program here, and it didn't take long for me to get to know Faith. She sat right behind us, and I think the first time actually she sat in as secretary for the first time as the interns were up here, and at first I was like kind of intimidated by Faith because I was like, oh, she knows everyone here and I don't know anyone here. So it was kind of intimidating at first, but then she came up from the front, and I got to talking with her, and she was just so compassionate and very wanting to help me out. And we didn't formally have a mentor program for our intern class, but I definitely would say I found a mentor in Faith Tuttle, Senator Tuttle. Just a couple words that she kind of said in her speech that kind of defined her, I just wanted to kind of talk about was diligence, hard work, and being a team player. One of the big things that Faith does that a previous speaker talked about was how she goes to Topeka and is an intern with the leader there in Topeka. That requires so much work. I'm also an intern in Topeka, and I'm interning with Manhattan's Representative Carlin. And every time I get done with everything I need to do, and Faith's still working, I'm like, Faith, can we go home? Can we? Because she carpools our rides there, because that's the kind of person she is. And I'm like, Faith, can we go home? And she's like, nope, not yet. I gotta do some more work for the representative. So we're constantly waiting for Faith because she's constantly doing work, and it's work that isn't asked of her. It's work that she does on her own time. It's work that she does that she doesn't have to be told. She's always carefully persistent. She's always working towards goals that she sets in her life, which is really, really cool to kind of watch her reach those goals, like receiving that internship in Washington, D.C. with Representative Scalise. That's amazing. That's a really cool, amazing opportunity that she got because of her diligence and her hard work. Another thing is her team being a team player. I don't know if any of you know, but she is also on Legislative Advocates, as well as I am, and fellow senators are on that as well. That requires a lot of being a team player, because we aren't all on the same, we're not all on the same spot on the political spectrum. We all have different political ideologies. We all have different thoughts on how we think our state and local government should be ran. However, when it comes to higher education funding, we all kind of come in on the same point that we deserve our 4% back. So, and what we all kind of were trying to get to is that how can we effectively talk to legislators to kind of get our money back? So Faith was an amazing person in that she constantly was advocating for that. She was constantly communicating within the committee to try and get speakers to come speak to the committee, which was also very good. My last thing that I'd like to say about Faith is that whether it's in her official capacities here in Senate on Thursday nights, or it's every other day of the week, she's always there for students, and whether it's driving students to Topeka for a legislative internship, or it's serving as a member on the governmental relations committee, she's there. She always shows up, and she's always level-headed, and that's why I'm supporting her for speaker.
With that, are there any questions for Senator King? If not, is there debate in favor of Ryan? Senator Valdez?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Victor. I've known Ryan since he was a freshman, and I've had the opportunity to work with both Ryan and Faith while I served as the co-chair of the Special Committee on Membership, which then Ryan decided to be the chair of this last year. And getting to work with both of them, I've seen really strong leadership qualities in both in Ryan and both in Faith. But today I really want to speak on Ryan and why I see him being the best fit Speaker of Student Senate. I've had the opportunity of being in Senate for 4 years now, so I've seen a lot of different speakers from Kurt Lockwood to Jack Ayers, Jonathan Pushin. And one thing I really want to get to put in your minds is that you really need to be able to see the person that you're going to be voting for Speaker in the position. Imagine him sitting where Jonathan is sitting now. He looks a little different, but Ryan possesses 3 really distinct qualities that really set him apart from other people. That's his passion and his love for SGA, his work ethic. Sorry, I have had very little sleep, so stick with me. And his vision. First, I want to speak on his passion. I spend a lot of time with Ryan. He's one of my best friends, and I honestly have never had a conversation with him where SGA does not come up. I try changing the subject, I really do, but he comes back to SGA every single time. He just really pours all of his energy into SGA, and I've seen that since he's a freshman, and I've been really proud of how much he's poured into it this last year, and I really believe that he's going to keep pouring into SGA in the position of Speaker. He really loves working with every branch in SGA, and he wants to get to know everything about SGA, not just legislative, not just committee memberships or getting more people involved in the Senate. He wants to make all of Senate, the whole of Senate, the whole of SGA, just a better program. And I want to give an example of how he's done this in the past. Last year, I know he worked diligently with both the executive and the judicial branches, to get them to work on different projects. I know that on the Special Committee on Membership, he involved a lot of different people, people who weren't even SGA and people who were in judicial and in the executive branch. And that just really shows, his passion for getting to know people and his ability to collaborate. Next, I want to speak on his work ethic. We talk a lot about how people, spend a lot of late nights here. Honestly, I think I went home one day, at 9:30, came back the next day at 7:30, and Ryan was still here. I really think he has a bed somewhere, so if you guys find it, I will reward you. But, Ryan keeps having stories about how many times he spent at Senate or in the CSI room, just collaborating with people, just talking through ideas. He's had 45-minute conversations about SGA. I have legit had a 3-hour conversation with him about SGA, and trust me, I tried changing the subject. He just does not want to. But he really likes, brainstorming ideas and expanding on those ideas, and really just working with you to find your passions and just really finding your place in SGA. And the way this speaks to his work ethic is because the way he works best is by empowering the members of SGA. He's empowered me to be a better senator and just a better person overall. And finally, his vision. One thing that I really value is people that look in the long term, not just the short term. Because I really believe that if we implement solutions, they need to be sustainable for the long run.
Time for the speaker has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Needery.
I move to extend his time by 3 minutes. Second.
It's moved and seconded to extend by 3 minutes. If there are no objections, you have 3 more minutes.
So a lot of the ideas he had for the Special Committee on Membership, I really believe those are long-run ideas, not just short-run ideas that we implement just for 1 year. I really believe that he's going to be working to make sure those are sustainable and give tips to people in the future on how to make it sustainable. I know that we speak a lot about how we really need a good speaker, but I really believe that the students at K-State deserve a great speaker, and I really believe that Ryan is going to be that great speaker. That's why I'm voting for Ryan today, and that's why I urge you to vote for Ryan also.
Are there questions for Senator Valdez? If not, is there debate in favor of Faith Tuttle? Senator Grover.
Am I allowed to defer my speaking rights?
Yes, you are.
I defer my speaking rights to Nick Keckley.
Sounds great. Nick, come on up.
Hello, everyone. So a lot of people today have talked about the qualities of both candidates. And I think that we're all in agreement that whoever is chosen for this position is going to do great. They're going to be able to improve SGA tremendously. So I would like to shift the focus of the debate into something a little more different. What we're voting on is who's going to be our speaker. That's the face of the legislative branch. And in doing so, I'd like to analyze both candidates to determine who is going to be best for the face of the legislative branch. And in that, we need to look at neutrality. You see, Ryan Kelly does a fantastic job in creating controversy, and I am in full support of that. In fact, whenever I give a speech, I like to play the devil's advocate, because I believe that it's best able to figure out the merits of the legislation and whether or not it's a good idea. And in doing so, he has been able to drive SGA forward. In fact, just look at the intern bill. He was able to improve the way that interns are chosen and how the intern program as a whole is going to be improved. But with that, I believe that Ryan Kelly's best position is going to be right here in Senate. As Haley said earlier in questioning, we need neutrality when it comes to speaker. And quite frankly, Ryan Kelly is incredibly passionate about SGA, and I'm afraid that some of that is going to stand in the way in making neutral decisions. Faith Tuttle, on the other hand, has had a tremendous ability in being able to determine what is going to be the best way for everybody to be moving forward, and she listens to everyone. I know that because I went and talked to her before speaking about the intern bill because I had a couple concerns. Ryan, on the other hand, tried to change my mind beforehand, which is great. That's what you should be doing when you're the author of the legislation. But I think that for the role of speaker, we need to be choosing someone who is open to all ideas and instead of just pushing their own agenda, will actually listen to you. Ryan Kelly does a fantastic job here in Senate, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression that I'm against what he does. But I believe that he's going to be best in service to SGA as a whole here in Senate, where he can pass legislation that might make some of us uncomfortable, that will challenge the way that we view. And in doing so, will truly lead SGA forward. Thank you.
With that, are there any questions for Nick Kuechly? Senator Cole.
What exactly is Ryan Kelly's agenda?
Well, Ryan has a couple different things, and I think that every different speaker that's talked about that, no matter what his project is, because it's going to shift over the course of the year, he's going to be incredibly passionate about that, and in doing so, he's going to try and push how he views is going to be the best way for SGA to go forward, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's a fantastic thing, and I think we need more people like that here within Senate. I just don't know that if the face of the Senate, or of the speaker, should be somebody who is so passionate, but rather somebody who will be able to take a step back and analyze both positions without coming up with a set stance.
Further questions? Seeing no further questions, is there debate in the positive for Ryan Kelly? Senator Thomas.
Can I defer my speaking rights to Glenn?
You can, yep.
You? Chair Fuges?
Hi, everybody. My name is Glenn Bickerud. For those of you who know me, it's good to see you again. For those who have yet to meet me, I am a second-year grad student graduating in May. I'm a past senator from last year's term, and I was the government relations chair. So I'm here to speak on behalf of Ryan Kelly tonight, but I truly think you're in a no-lose situation. Having the opportunity to have worked with both of these candidates in the past year, Senate is in a great place. But to speak to the previous speaker's points, I think there's a perfect example to talk about Ryan's ability to be neutral on things that he is heavily invested in. I've had the opportunity to advise Ryan Kelly for 2 years in the Association of Residence Halls. I don't know if he's talked about this or if he shared this with you, but he's currently on the executive board of ARH. And last year he was representative for his building called Haymaker Hall. Haymaker does this massive program that requires thousands of dollars from ARH, and last year he was the point person for that. So he came into ARH and demanded a bunch of money and didn't get it. This year, he's an exec member and he no longer lives in that hall. However, he completely understands the position that they need the money and what that looks like. So when Haymaker came back this year and wanted more money than ARH could ever give them, there was actually a parliamentary procedure question as to whether we could suspend the bylaws, even though they're written into the Constitution, and we didn't have Robert's Rules on us. And I'm one of the co-advisors of ARH, and I know Ryan's mastery of Robert's Rules is unquestioned. So I look to Ryan, who could easily be biased in this, recognizing this is his community who's requesting money, which he had to valiantly fight for the year prior, and he took no stance. And he told me that it is not his place. We have a position on the executive board for interpreting parliamentary procedure, and he was going to sit this one out. And half of me really wanted him to be able to explain what we should do, because I was looking to him for help, but he was unbiased and impartial. And so to speak to the previous speaker's point, I think to say that a person's body of work from their experience as a senator is a precondition to their success as a speaker doesn't provide any merit to a multifaceted approach to someone's ability to do their job. I think Ryan has shown that in ARH. He has grown so much as both a senator and also as an exec member of the ARH. I fully support him. And I think one of the biggest things Ryan has truly done throughout campus and throughout the state of Kansas is connect people and facilitate change. And I'll also speak to the previous speaker's point of using the word controversy. I think controversy can be easily misconstrued as stirring the pot when it shouldn't be stirred. And I think to specifically talk to the intern bill, the numbers and the proof was in the pudding. The intern bill and the intern program as it wasn't meeting the needs of Senate. And that's exactly what the legislation that was written and passed looked to change. And I think that is exactly what Ryan's fought for, is change both in our state, in our community, and here at K-State. And so to say that him becoming speaker is going to necessitate more change is, I think, a paradigm shift from the initial argument, and that Ryan is a facilitator for change. He is a person who recognizes that he can't be there and do everything. So he wants to put you in a position to do just that. And so controversial, no. Change agent, yes. I stand for questions.
Any questions for Glenn Bickerud? Seeing none, is there debate in the positive on faith? If not, is there debate in the positive on Ryan? Senator Martin?
All right, bear with me. I have kind of a sore throat right now, but Ryan has experience in literally every part of SGA, specifically in the legislative branch. He has done it all. As the chair of the Special Committee on Membership, Ryan gained a lot of experience related to outreach and student engagement and learned about all the branches in order to relay information to our fellows in the Accelerated Fellowship Program. His chair experience of a diverse committee like that will serve him well, as with this new position, he would be chairing Senate, Exec, and TFSC. As the engineering rep on TFSC, Ryan understands how that process works and even chaired an engineering CTC meeting, that's the College Tuition Council, while Jonathan and Jack were in Washington, D.C. As the process used this year was brand new, it's going to be very important that the chairs of that committee are very well-rounded in how that process works, and Ryan certainly is. As a former TFSC representative myself, I can say that when TFSC was meeting, I was putting in at least 4 hours of work per week, whether that's from having conversations with other TFSC members, doing research, going to meetings, etc. And I know that Jack and Jessica, the chairs the year I was in it, put in a lot more than that. It concerns me deeply that Faith came up here and said that she thought it was just going to be 2 hours of work a week for one semester. I think that's very concerning, and I think that she isn't quite understanding how big of a role that really is. TFSC is arguably the most important thing that SGA does. every single student sees how much they pay every single year. They don't know what SGA does, but they do definitely see on their tuition bill how much they're being charged. As a member of Privilege Fee, Ryan has learned a lot about how the Privilege Fee works, where the money goes, and how legislation should be written. Through this, he has also learned a lot about the allocations process, as all of those allocations ultimately come out of Privilege Fee dollars. He also knows how other SGAs in Kansas operate. He was the chair of the Diversity Inclusion Task Force for K-Board this year, and that allowed him to interface with leaders at all of the Board of Regents institutions. And he learned a lot about how and why they do the things that they do. Those relationships will also prove to be key as we work with these other schools during events like State Higher Education Day and other joint ventures, something that the speaker has a vested interest in. This experience also gave him a good understanding of how state government works, particularly in regards to higher ed, and this will allow him to be able to help whoever the new GR chair is when that gets selected. My last points are that Ryan was voted most outstanding senator last year and most outstanding intern the year before for a reason. He works harder than anyone I have ever met. If there's an issue that any of you are passionate about or controversial about, he will make it his passion and help you make the change that you want to see on this campus. He steps up when others need him to. Anytime that Jack or other leaders this past year needed something done or legislation written, Ryan was usually one of the first people that they'd contact. And he's also a very good delegator. While he did do a lot of the work to set up the foundations for the Accelerated Fellowship Program, he delegated much of the work of smoothing out the edges to the committee, and that made the new intern program what it is now. He also opened up each of those meetings to everyone in SGA and encouraged everyone to have their thoughts heard about the intern program, and he responded well to those criticisms that were proposed and allowed us to come to a collaborative new intern program that represents the values of everyone in Senate. If that isn't what the speaker is supposed to do, I don't know what is. That's all. I'm open for questions.
Any questions for Senator Martin? If not, is there debate in favor of Faith Tuttle? Yes, Senator Belk.
Hi. I'd just like to start by saying I'm a freshman. This is my first year, pretty much my second day. So I would like to say I vaguely know both candidates. I'm coming in pretty much neutral, but Faith took the time to congratulate me on my seat and to reach out and to set up an appointment with me to talk about her platform. And just that says a lot for who I think she is. I've talked to her a couple times before and after that, but just the fact that she took the time to talk to me and lay out her plans was a lot. And she seems like a very grounded person. She seems like she is willing to work hard. She seems like she understands what Senate is missing, where Senate is going, and how her seat, her position can affect that. And like she said multiple times, she's not just in it as a stepping stone to something greater. She is here to do what she can and to help out who she can at the time. And I think that's something of value. If we're looking too far forward into the future, into our own futures, then how much can we really get done at the time? So that's it. Questions?
Any questions for Senator Belk? Seeing none, is there debate in favor of Ryan Kelly? And Senator Hildreth.
I just defer my speaking rights to Stephen Co-Chair.
So I had a speech I was going to read, but honestly, most of the great points were taken, so I'm going to try to cover some new ground. So who am I? I have served 4 terms in this body as a student senator. 4 years. I was a speaker pro tem 2 years ago, and I was the student support director on cabinet this last year. I got to know Ryan when he was a freshman last year, 2 years ago, I guess, when he was an intern, and he was really passionate. He took the initiative to work on a lot of different projects, which was unique amongst most of interns in almost any year. There are a few that rise to the top that put in the time, the effort, take that initiative. He was that person, and he won Intern of the Year, as was mentioned previously. I want to talk to elections just in general. In elections, people run on platforms, people run on ideas. But ultimately, what they will work on during their time is dictated by what happens as things are going on. You have to be flexible, because I bet that Speaker Pushin didn't figure that he was going to be having to navigate the sending out of resolutions situation that came up in the fall semester, when it turned out that student government hadn't been sending out resolutions for 2 years. So basically, the way that elections go is people run on ideas, and they're fantastic, but it's important to elect the people that you know will be able to be flexible and have the knowledge to adjust to the challenges that go on at that particular time. I think Faith has a ton of great experience when it comes to state government issues, but I think Ryan's experience in student government is unparalleled, particularly during his 2 years that have been here, as was previously mentioned. So I'm not going to touch on that Ryan is the best person when it comes to TFSC, because he has the knowledge, he's been in that room, and he's very familiar with those changes. And it's really important to have someone with experience. I'm just going to briefly touch on, Ryan's work ethic and his time commitment. If you were here during the senior speeches last time, you would hear a lot of Ryan would constantly ask the different leaders from the previous years who could he have a couple minutes of their time to talk about an idea. And this happened all throughout the week. So he's willing to ask those questions to make sure that he gets the right answer and that he has the right context. And then the third thing was that he's willing to work with others to find the best compromise so that ideas get passed. Because the idea that he had for intern legislation, for reforming that intern program so that it would be more accessible to students, was fantastic. But the final bill that went through Student Senate was not his original idea. And he was willing for this body to make changes on it until it became something that could pass 42 to 0 to 0. So I think for ideas for this year, it's important for you to get to know Ryan and and Faith and your fellow senators. And I think I will leave you in very good hands when I go off to Oklahoma this year if you elect Ryan to be your speaker. I've been lucky enough to have a partner in him in serving students, and I hope you make that partnership connection as well. And then one more thing about elections. So after elections and after every single debate that happens, you might debate very hard against each other on different issues. And that's okay. Do it, even if it's your best friend, debate hard, don't make it personal, but then leave this body, shake hands, and then come back to work the next day, because if you can put your differences aside, if you can put those debates aside, and then reform those partnerships, that's what this body is all about. It's about disagreeing with each other, but then coming back together and then working on what's best for students, no matter which side of a bill you happen to fall on. I stand for questions.
With that, are there any questions for Director Kuchera? Seeing none, is there debate in the positive on Faith? If not, is there debate in the positive on Ryan? Senator Mari?
So today I'll be speaking on behalf of Rajat Kodira. He wasn't able to make it today. So, hello everyone. As some of you know, Ryan and I are very close friends. A few of you know where our friendship began. Ryan and I attended high school together and met each other when the two of us were both running for the same position in our high school student government. Ryan inevitably beat me in that race, but we ended up remaining friendly afterwards. That friendship ended with the both of us deciding to be roommates here at K-State. Upon arrival, I immediately was witness to Ryan's leadership initiative. Within the first few hours that he stepped foot on campus, he started his campaign for Haymaker Hall president and applied for the intern program. I vividly recall Ryan energetically spreading his ideas for Haymaker and making it a point to be a personable leader, complete with the most handsome senior photo of him in his leather jacket. I still remember the night Ryan was selected for the intern program. He made sure that everyone on the floor knew of his accomplishment. He did not do this to gloat, but to educate everyone that he could serve as a resource to them. There are 5 of us from the 8th floor of Haymaker Hall who now actively participate in this body. I think that we all agree that our interest began with Ryan. Ryan is the most passionate and hardworking leader I know. While we were roommates, I constantly witnessed him working throughout the night on legislation, projects, and initiatives that he knew would further advance the K-State community. Ryan's passion is very contagious, and that we all well demonstrated in the planning of the Accelerated Fellowship Program. He inspired a change that will enable a generation of leaders to come. Had Ryan not been such an inspiration, I would not have been interested and committed to SGA. Ryan has the uncanny knack to challenge those around him and never settles for just good enough. During countless nights Ryan and I spent in CSI planning and coordinating the AFP program, Ryan constantly pushed me to produce the best program possible. Ryan is someone who never settles and always strives for greatness. He is someone who challenges with no hesitation. He is someone who tirelessly works to better the community around him. Ryan is someone that I can look up to and admire. Ryan is by far the most qualified candidate for this position, and I cannot wait for the continued late nights in CSI. Most importantly, Ryan is someone I'm so grateful to call my friend.
Is there any questions for Senator Mari? If not, is there debate in the positive on faith? Is there debate in the positive on Ryan? Senator Neadery?
Hi guys, I'm Sarah. I'm a junior here, so going into my 4th year in this body. First of all, we did a little digging, and Ryan is actually not a senator, so he would not be serving in the capacity as a senator if he were not to get this role, just to make that clear. If you had asked me how I felt about Ryan last year, man, I was like, this guy is in over his head, and he is not approachable. But I really think that he has been able to grow a lot over this past year. So one of my good friends says you really need to take a chance on this guy, and him sitting in CSI, that was my chance to become friends with Ryan. I asked him his strengths tonight, just because I was interested in what this role needed and how those strengths align with that role. And his top 2 strengths, I don't know why I'm breathing hard, probably because I have a cold, but are input and individualization. I think those are 2 very important strengths that you need in this role. About helping facilitate people. Input, I think he shows that every time you walk by CSI, he says, hey, come here, I need you to look at something. And I'm like, I have to go to class, but sure, Ryan, I'll look at this something for you. And individualization, I think it's really important when a leader in this role is trying to work with other people that he figures out their strengths to get them in the best role that's going to make the student body better. So I think an important thing that he really portrayed in his goals is that he really wants us to do what we want to do. Ask Jonathan if I like to do what he tells me to do, and I don't. And so I think it's really important that someone in this role, not that he tells me what to do all the time, but I think it's really important that someone in this role really finds what you can thrive on and go from there. I think the way he's portrayed his speaking and really wanting to make it about you and not about him really shows how he has grown over this past year. And I think he would do a tremendous job as the speaker. I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for Senator Neadery? If not, is there any debate in the positive on faith? Senator Grover.
Learning. SGA is a learning opportunity. Knowledge and experience has never been a requirement. As a new senator who would have never run for Senate, even though I was an intern, without Faith's support, I would have never been here. But I would hope that SGA be willing to give people opportunities, empower people to run for positions, and not intimidate them out of running. While Faith has places that she can grow, she has amazing capabilities and qualities, and I'm sure she's willing to learn.
Any questions for Senator Grover? If not, is there debate in the positive on Ryan? Senator Bergston.
Previous question. Second.
It is moved and seconded to call the previous question. All those in favor of the motion to call the previous question, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, please raise your right hand. In the opinion of the soon-to-be out-of-here speaker, that is a more than a 2/3 majority, and we will proceed to vote on our two candidates. With that, we have paper ballots, and on those paper ballots, we want you to put the name of the candidate, your signature, and then also your printed name. So the name of the candidate you're supporting, your signature, and then your printed name. And then Bill, we'll be getting those handed out shortly.
Raise your hand if you are a sitting senator who's been sworn in.
Please raise your hand if you're a sitting senator that has been sworn in.
Raise 2 hands if you have a proxy.
Yep, we do have some proxies. Raise 2 hands if you're a proxy. Gil.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. No, probably like Any others?
The candidates are on their way, trust me.
What'd you say?
The candidates are on their way. Yep. No, we're not just, yeah.
I didn't hear you. I'm so sorry.
Sorry. I would like to congratulate your new Speaker of the Student Senate, Ryan Kelly. Let's get you sworn in. Please raise your right hand, say I will at the end. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association. I will. Congratulations. One last thing. What's that? The vote was 31 to 19. With that, name, major, hometown, favorite smell.
So my name is Ryan Kelly. I am majoring in communication studies, and I'm from Overland Park, Kansas. My favorite smell is chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream.
That's your chair right there.
Wow. Sam, let's go on.
Okay, bye.
Green means on.
Huh?
Gotcha, thanks.
Yeah. Remember, he doesn't like it.
All right. Is that? Yeah, sure. So now we're moving on with the agenda, and we will now accept nominations for Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate. Senator Valdez.
I'd like to nominate Joshua Arnoldi.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we nominate Joshua Arnoldi for Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate. Senator Arnoldi, do you accept?
I do.
Additional nominations. Senator Niedery.
I nominate Haley Heatherman. Hannah Heatherman.
Her name is Hannah. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we nominate Hannah Heatherman for Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate. Senator Heatherman, do you accept?
Yes.
Any more nominations? Senator Spellman.
I nominate Jonathan Cole.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we nominate Jonathan Cole for Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate. Senator Cole, do you accept?
I do.
Are there any more nominations for Speaker Pro Tempore? All right, seeing none, will the candidates please come to the front of the room? One through 10.
Over here, so I'll go faster.
All right, Senator Arnoldi, you have 10 minutes for your speech.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joshua Arnoldi, and I am a junior studying music composition with a minor in business. I've had a lot of experiences at K-State in both leadership roles and outside of, including my time as a resident assistant in Haymaker Hall, the manager of my pool in my hometown, and also sitting in your seats as a previous student senator. The role of Speaker Pro Tempore is one that I think fits me very well. There's a lot of organizational and management skills that you need behind this job for the day-to-day tasks that come with organizing legislation and communicating with different people. I also believe I have a lot of experience and knowledge to implement new ideas that I'm hoping to share with you tonight. I think the most critical role in the position of Speaker Pro Tem moving forward is going to be the position of the Diversity Programming Committee. For those of you that are unaware, the Diversity Programming Committee is a committee made up of individuals who deal with funding and allocating that funding to diversity-oriented activities and education on campus at Kansas State University. Currently, the Speaker Pro Tem chairs that committee, and in the past Senate, there has been legislation introduced to move this over to the Office of Diversity. I see two very large benefits for this move. First and foremost being that the training and expertise in the Office of Diversity can only help with this committee and its ability to move forward when allocating funds and making moves that are smart for diversity and advocating for diversity on campus. I also think it's a really great move because upon moving to the Office of Diversity, there will be a match for the funding available, consequently doubling that amount that funding will be available for diversity-oriented activities. I think, although that I support this move to the Office of Diversity, there needs to be some structure in place before we make that move forward. Diversity on this campus has always been an issue that concerns the student body first and foremost. And because of that, I think it's very important that this committee will be chaired by a student, with student leadership moving forward. I also think this is a really great opportunity to create some links to other places on campus, specifically housing and dining services that do diversity and inclusion very well already. I told you earlier that I was a resident assistant, and part of that application process includes going through an 8-week program specifically designed for a diversity program and coming into the role as a resident assistant. And I've really had the experience, to go through that to learn about my identity and about the identity of others, and it was so incredibly educational that I think one of the things that we could do with this committee and with diversity in general on this campus is make those connections to services that are already doing such great work. My next topic is on open period speakers in Senate education. I sat in this term the past year as a student senator, and we had some very interesting and educational speakers come through, but I would also argue that a lot of those speakers didn't really have a large impact on the student body majority. My idea of an open period speaker that is useful to this body are people who inform and educate you about university issues so that you can in turn turn around and talk to our constituents and talk to the student body in general about those issues. And again, like we saw earlier tonight, with students coming up with issues they have so that we can make those changes directly to the university. I think the best way for your constituents to be heard is to have an active, involved, and informed voice sitting in these chairs. And part of the way that we do that is through Senate education. And I think that we need to have a clear program in place for senators coming in so that they will be aware of how SGA at Kansas State University works, an educated process of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches so that we really understand what's happening when you come in. I think that being able to implement that not only for newly elected senators in this spot, but also for senators who come in midterm, and having a process set in place that really allows every senator in this room to be able to make the biggest effort and the biggest change that they can in their positions. We all come to this room to make decisions, to call for change, and to share our voices. And all of that comes through in the form of legislation. Which kind of brings me to my final point here. The process of legislation in this body is currently very clear and inconsistent, especially from the outside looking in. And as a speaker, as a senator who came in the middle of their term, it was a little tricky for me to catch on how all of these things worked. And one thing that I think could really help with that is something that we have done in past years, and that is include a bill tracker on OrgSync that really spells out all of the legislation that comes through this body so that any student would be able to look on that sheet and see the date, author, title, and final vote that came through of the legislation of this body. One thing, communication within SGA and the public has been an issue in the past, and I think expanding on this bill tracker idea that we've used before could be part of the solution. I think including a link to the direct legislation so that people can actually read through what we are doing and what we are passing, and creating a column on that bill tracker, something about last action, so that after a resolution or bill has passed this body, you can look onto the bill tracker and see, hey, speaker needs to sign this, student body president needs to sign this. It has been sent to its people notated in it, or it has been adopted into the bylaws or constitution or something of that like, so that the work and the decisions and the hard debates that you guys put forth in this room are truly reflected in the real world. I think this simple and time-consuming task will allow both senators and students to feel more included and have a more informed instance of what's happening in the legislative body. And it's also going to hold our student leadership to, a higher accountability, because when we had the issue previously of resolutions that hadn't been sent out, this will be a very clear way for you to be able to look on and say, hey, my accommodation hasn't been sent out, or hey, this needs to be adopted to the Constitution, it hasn't been done yet. And I think that's really something that will just aid in the process of making sure that the job that we are doing in this room for helping students is really what is happening in the end result. The time that I spent in SGA and the time that I spent preparing for this speech, the more and more I found myself feeling so incredibly committed, excited, and ready to take on this position. And I believe the ideas that I've shared with you all this evening are really not only going to improve the legislative branch of this body, but will also improve the students here at Kansas State University. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Are there questions for Senator Arnoldi? Senator Spellman.
What actions have you taken in the past to help promote diversity on K-State campus?
Cool. So I served as a resident assistant for 1 year in Haymaker Hall, and a very large push for that is actual programming for diversity. So as resident assistants, we are required to do certain types of programming for our residents. And I actually did a diversity program related specifically to my floor. So one thing that I did is I put out kind of a survey for the big 8 identities that we talk about, at least in the course that I took, around nationality, socioeconomic status, race, religion, I'm blanking now, sexual orientation, gender, those types of things. And what I did is I created a chart of the actual list on our floor, and I published it in our lobby so that people could come in and see that there were people of different backgrounds living even in their own floor, so that they could see, these are different people. And it really kind of started conversations, I think, because I even remember talking to my one of my supervisors at the time, one of the graduate students, and she was telling me, I didn't even realize some of these people were living on our floor, and I'm in charge of the entire building. So it was a really cool effort there. Did that answer your question?
Senator Adams.
I defer my question to Kenneth.
Hi. So as the outgoing Speaker Pro Tem, one of the, I guess you could say, challenges and the predecessors, one of the responsibilities was to host a diversity training session for the student Senate body, or for the entire SGA. My question to you would be how moving forward in this role are you going to be able to have those diversity training sessions, and do you believe it should be just one training session or there should be multiple? How would you tackle those?
That is a great question, thank you. I think that in terms of diversity training, there's so many different aspects to diversity that you could train for. I think one of the biggest things that this role and taking on a diversity training session for a body as large as us would be to reference, our resources. And for me, I would probably go straight to housing and dining because I have so many resources there as well that would be able to implement and, use these education sessions that, I went through, something that we could expand upon for a larger entity as well. To answer your question, I think multiple sessions would be beneficial, though I don't know realistic based on the actual time that we have in this room and outside. So I think that would be a great option to do. I would also need to look further into how we're actually going to implement that. Did that answer your question?
Senator Albers.
Could you elaborate more on the programs you want to implement for incoming senators in the middle of the term?
Yeah, so I would say it's something similar to a very shortened version of the intern program or the fellowship program that we went through this last year, where we do have senators who are coming in and they don't know everything. I was talking to a previous senator in this room who's been in SGA for several years, and one of the things he told me is, I still don't really know how the judicial branch works. And no offense, Haley, because I love you. But that's realistic, and I think it's something that we need to implement, and possibly, even using open periods sessions where we can talk about and present on how SGA works at K-State. And that specifically would be something I would like to see done. This is the legislative branch. We have a pretty good idea of what we do. This is the executive branch. These are the positions. This is the judicial branch. This is the things they take care of. Something, that can be planned out and organized that way. I hope that answers your question. Yes.
Senator Bothwell.
So you mentioned bringing in speakers for open period. That's obviously an important part of your job. Is there anyone that springs to mind that would be like first on your list that you want to bring in to speak to SGA?
Well, I think one of the things that I've heard a lot of really good things about is bringing in speakers who relate to the legislation that we're going through at the time. And I think that's a really, really good point to make that would be very helpful. So I think in terms of programming speakers, I would look to coordinate that along with Senate Education, our diversity sessions that we need to have and should have, and then also, programming based on the issues at hand and the issues that we're going to be taking care of that night. I think would really be where I would look to start.
Further questions? Seeing none, if you could grab Senator Heatherman, that'd be great.
All right, thank you for your time.
Senator Heatherman, you have 10 minutes.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Hannah Heatherman, and I'm a College of Business senator. And there's a couple things I want to start off with right off the bat. First of all, it's freezing in here. I can empathize with that. If I'm shaking, I'm only like 50% nervous. The rest is all cold. On a more serious note, though, some things I'd like to get out in the open is that, in fact, yes, I'm a white, female, member of the Greek community, who's also a brand new senator, who, to the common eye, probably wouldn't have a lot of business running for this position. And if I were sitting in your seat, I'd have a lot of questions. What makes me qualified? How am I going to navigate something that I haven't seen before? How am I going to work with Diversity Programming Committee to make it effective, given my different demographics? And while those initial attributes that I listed, I cannot change, your questions are still very relevant. And I hope that throughout seeing my plans for this position, those answers will be revealed to you. So just kind of an overview of my platforms. I'll kind of be going in order of how they're listed in the Constitution for job responsibilities. But the first thing would be thorough new senator education. This has continuously proven to be a weak point from the number of senators who I've talked to. So I'd like to take kind of the trial run that we did for education this time and build upon it. So having 4 mandatory new senator training classes, supplementing the involvement of more current senators into that so that we can spend less time doing lecture-style presentations and more time doing hands-on activities such as writing legislation, mock debating, etc. So by incorporating those older senators, we'll be able to just kind of throw everybody in and have guidance for those questions along the ways, but also requiring that new senators attend a meeting before they are sworn in. And then also creating a legislative handbook that will kind of give all your legislative documents in one place. So bylaws, constitutions, statutes, all accessible right there, plus the current terms, senator contact information. And then on an individual basis, giving the same amount of hands-on experience. So meeting with the speaker pro tempore directly and coming back at a later meeting, having a commendation prepared. In addition to giving some both sides for a mock debate. I think a common issue, though, that senators have had, especially you who are returning, is an effective use of the college caucus system. I think that college caucus leaders are highly underutilized at this current time, and that when we're taking the time to meet in our caucuses, those leaders should be submitting agendas so that we can effectively know just exactly who is using their time and on what issues, and just to be more guidance and intentionality to it. And so that the speaker pro tempore would be able to reach out and foster more discussion. And then also highly encouraging several more outreach events within our colleges, whether that's a simple email through your all-college listserv, tabling, working with departmental student organizations within your colleges, and then also kind of giving a monthly topic to all senators, but specifically to be discussed within your caucus. So we're thinking about those things that affect, yes, your specific college, but also all students as a whole. Then also an open period, I think it would be highly beneficial in the fall semester to have the dean from every college come in and give a speech during open period, but if and only if after they've collaborated with their college caucus and they've had that discussion. What does Senate need to know about what's going on in our college specifically? I'd also like to have either student engagement or another SGA member consistently sit more towards the back of the room to invite the student interest that we are retaining in to be a welcoming face to anybody who's generally interested, and to get more information about them, so they can have they can be connected with another senator, maybe somebody from their college, to guide their questions to, and also being given a copy of that handbook. I personally, my freshman year, attended an SGA meeting, and I stayed for maybe 20 minutes before I felt overwhelmed and slipped out the door. So I think really sitting with somebody who has one little thing in common with you could really impact students feeling inclined to stay. And also the speaker, before we conclude open period, could invite those students to, at least introduce themselves or tell them what brought them into the meeting today. I know a common issue that we saw last year was a diversity programming committee. And so I've kind of broken this into two different parts. As many of you are probably familiar with the restructuring of the Office of Diversity. I'm sorry. I've kind of broken it into what things should be done existing in DPC currently. And I think those things are just the continued emphasis on attendance and making that very clear to the members of that committee from the beginning, and also further along, considering changing the funding process. Should we transition instead to ILC? I think that we should even further push that, even further push for that rollover funding process, allowing student organizations who are applying for funding for their events to apply in one quarter and to have that fulfilled in another. I think that could be really beneficial for the planning purposes, especially as we're having these organizations, potentially suffer lack of attendance at their events, which we do in fact want to be highly attended, due to them not being able to count on that money. All in all, though, I think it's important that I tell you far beyond my plans is why I'm here. And that is because even though I haven't been a senator in the past, I have time and time again met people who have been a part of this governing body of students who have been highly unfulfilled with their time. And I think a lot of the behind the scenes work that the student pro tem does can directly fulfill and enhance your experience. And I would want to be able to be a resource to you, to every single one of you during my time in this position or not, to connect you with other ideas and to be able to combine your passion with education and with people who are thinking like-mindedly. That being said, I stand for questions.
Questions for Senator Heatherman. Senator Valdez.
You mentioned that you are planning to work with changing the way that DPC works. And my question is, what experience do you have, and can you give us an example of the time that you've had to work closely with someone with a very different background than yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we all know, there's several different types of diversity. And for me, I think the easiest example for me to give is that I've worked as a staff member for Biking Across Kansas for the last 3 years. And the age range of that event is from, I think the youngest solo rider is 9 years old and the oldest is 92. And my directly, the officer who I work the most closely with is a man who is, in fact, I think he's 88. And we coordinate all the economic development activities in the communities that we travel through. And him and I don't always see 100% eye to eye. However, we're consistently able to share full story backgrounds and perspectives and why we see things the way we do, and that's always able to result in a solution. So I think just creating more avenues for understanding and taking the time to discuss has proved effective.
Senator Bothwell.
So you mentioned some of the open speakers you'd want for education would be some of the deans of the colleges. Is there any other speakers that you think would be great for education for this body?
Yeah, so while I did specifically talk about deans, something I didn't quite get to was that I want to really further dive deeper into how we do our demographic surveys and make that more inclusive of just adding more questions that really highlight who we are as a body of senators. And something I'd like to do is take the results of that, because I'd like to have it done by the end of the summer, all the analysis, and pick speakers related to diversity, specifically in the points that were weak.
Further questions for the speaker? Senator Penny.
I refer my question to TENDOT.
So, same question I asked the previous contestant. So, one of the difficulties, challenges I had and the previous speaker pro tem was regarding about trying to plan a diversity training session for the Senate. My question to you would be what some ideas are going to possibly help to make that happen, and do you believe there should be more than just one diversity training session?
I think throughout the entire term that we should do 2 diversity training sessions, one spring, one in fall. I think it's continuous I think it's important that we're continuously thinking about those things and all intersections of diversity within our groups. I do understand the concern of getting those properly coordinated. While I don't have a specific answer for how to combat that, I think throughout the last week I've consulted several different people on what all of this position entails, and I'm not going to hesitate to ask for help.
Are there any more questions for the speaker? Senator Valdez.
This one has to pertain to college caucuses, which historically have been a mess. Coming from College of Arts and Sciences and former chair of College of Arts and Sciences, one thing I've noticed that they're all really different. Some of them are really good, some of them are not so good. How are you planning on addressing the very different dynamics of each college while you're working to improve the college caucus system?
Yeah, I'd absolutely like to have just continued continued communication with each caucus leader. That would be a very important point of outreach within my day-to-day activities as Speaker Pro Tempore, and just constantly getting an understanding. And I hope to get some of that, from their agenda, but also sitting in on those caucuses. And I'd make it my goal within that first time period, first semester, to feel like I've specifically spent some time understanding the dynamics of both, so that we can really hit the ground running from there.
Follow up? Yep. I guess I'm kind of confused on what do you think the main goal of the college caucuses should be?
I think that the main goal of college caucuses should be for students in every college to understand who's representing them, and to feel like they can associate a face with who SGA is directly to that representation, and feel like they have a point of contact to voice those concerns.
Thank you.
Further questions? Senator Spellman.
Kind of just a point of clarification. I'm a new senator, and I know there's a lot of us in here. You were using quite a few acronyms. So I believe it was under your DPC point, you were talking about ILCs. Could you kind of clarify what that is? How would you?
Yeah, sorry. ILC is the Intercultural Leadership Council. It hasn't fully taken form yet, but there was a new Associate Vice President of Diversity that was hired last December, and the Office of Diversity in the last couple months has been undergoing some restructuring, and it's going to be like a committee that has a very similar makeup to Diversity Programming Committee, but with further education, workshops, things that should just help that committee run more effectively, and that's specifically like a K-State office.
Are there any more questions for the speaker? Seeing none, Senator Heatherman, if you could grab Senator Cole, that'd be helpful. Senator Cole, you have 10 minutes.
All right. Good evening, Wildcats. My name is Jonathan Cole, for those of you that don't know me. I'm a senior in mechanical engineering, and I'm from Wichita, Kansas. I just wanted to start off my speech tonight with a little more information about me before diving into my platforms. I feel like providing everyone with some background information will aid in making an informed decision. Kansas State University means a lot to me. The university has provided me with a tremendous amount of opportunities and growing experiences. Coming here was one of the best choices I could have made because I finally feel like I am a part of something greater than myself. The passion I have for this place is tremendous, and that's why I'm running for Speaker Pro Tem tonight. With that being said, I know one of the things that I have learned to be valuable while being here is know the stories others tell about you. I feel that one story others may tell about me is that I can come off as aggressive and shut down others that don't agree with me. This could be seen during our fall semester when K-State had some pretty rough times. It hurt me to hear that others didn't feel welcomed at K-State. I think my passion to fight for inclusivity came off negatively to some, and for that I am sorry. Learning to work with people of all walks of life is something critical to this position, and I feel that I have grown to do that this academic year. Another concern others may have for me is my lack of student governing experience, which is also valid. Before coming to K-State, however, I spent 2 years at Butler Community College in El Dorado, Kansas. During both of those years, I became heavily involved in SGA down there, serving as treasurer my freshman year and vice president my sophomore year. Along with that, I got involved with SGA this semester, or this year as well. Not in a formal capacity as a position, but working alongside student leaders to help make K-State a better place. I'm excited to bring what I have learned from my previous SGA experiences to K-State and hope to keep building upon them. Now, let's focus some time on my platforms. I feel that diversity, accountability, and empowerment is what K-State needs most right now. First, starting off with my first platform, I feel now is a critical time for K-State to talk about diversity and how it defines us as a student body. Representation and visibility is critical for us right now. Because being able to see student leaders who have some of the same qualities as you does play a huge role in feeling welcome here at K-State. One of the big responsibilities Speaker Pro Tem has is to perform a demographic analysis of SGA and present on it. I would like to take that data and establish an effective outreach program that maintains a strong connection with groups that aren't represented in SGA and bring them into SGA to get their voices heard. Engaging those voices that aren't typically present in SGA is critical to the success for us all. And given my previous experience in the fall with reaching out across student groups and networking with them to get those voices heard, I feel like I could do this effectively. Another big responsibility for Speaker Pro Tem is chairing the Diversity Programming Committee, or DPC. This past year, DPC has had some issues with budgeting and not effectively addressing the needs of the student body. With my previous treasurer experience, I feel that handling funding across all 4 quarters is something that I am able to do. Alongside with that, space needs to be provided to allow all student groups to be heard and represented in DPC, as this will only help further the student body here at K-State. Lastly, the Speaker Pro Tem is also in charge of diversity trainings and education. K-State and the surrounding community has an amazing amount of resources for these type of things and should be utilized to the max. I feel that I am a strong advocate for diversity, and that is one of the things that sets me apart from all the other candidates. For example, in the fall semester, I was involved in coordinating the first Cats for Inclusion event of the year, bringing one of the largest groups together to talk about our current environment here at K-State. I also helped a lot with local churches facilitate conversations in the community about diversity and race relations here in Manhattan. I even flew to Michigan with the Associate Vice President of Student Life, Adrian Rodriguez, and Elia, who's helping out with the One Family Initiative, to bring back information back here to K-State to help further us. This is undoubtedly one strength that I possess and that Speaker Pro Tem needs to be powerful and successful. Moving on to my second platform, accountability. We are elected to serve students at K-State. To not hold ourselves accountable and perform our duties is letting our peers down. First, I want to stay on top of legislation to make sure that it is sent out as it's passed. I think that there needs to be some conversations going on as to how we can streamline this process as well. And we help represent students, and by sending out the legislation to the proper people shows that the student government is working for our student body. Second, coordinating open period speakers that are relevant to issues that at hand that have a huge impact here in SGA. For example, when we had an incident going on with graffiti in the car earlier this year, it would have been helpful to have somebody from Riley County Police Department come in and discuss what was going on, just so SGA was informed and can make proper decisions. Or if we were passing a commendation, having those people that we're commending to also come here and just talk about what they've been doing and why, just to inform student government with what's going on and provide some context. Open period needs to be utilized significantly more than it is now and has been in the past, and I hope to change that. Moving on to my last platform, empowerment. Empowering everyone will only move us forward. I intend to do this in 2 ways. First, help individualize the new senator education and onboarding process. I feel that education that we just went through as senators is good, but could be improved upon. Making the learning more hands-on and individualized is the most effective way to do something like this. There needs to be a process started for those who join us in the middle of the semester due to vacancies as well. I feel that establishing a mentor program would be beneficial to those new senators and does this in an effective manner. Second, energize the college caucus system. Our caucus system is the best way to help get outreach to those not involved in student government. I'd love to sit down with each caucus and set goals for each one. And this helps individualize those goals and helps create a network of trust amongst everyone within the caucus. And setting up reasonable expectations and goals will help advance K-State further in getting these goals accomplished. I feel that this would help open up communication between everyone. I am incredibly thankful to be here before you tonight. Right now is a critical time for K-State, and I would be honored to help us push forward. I want to leave you with one last quote from Theodore Roosevelt. "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood." Thank you for everyone that is listening. With that being said, I open myself up for questioning.
Questions for Senator Cole? Senator Bothwell.
So you mentioned having new open period speakers. Is there anyone that springs to mind that you particularly feel like right now SJ needs to hear?
Yeah, right now, I recently came across something on Facebook that was talking about people going into education, especially. There was an educator in North Central Kansas that was being attacked for being openly gay in the school system. And I think bringing in people from the LGBTQ community to talk about what that means and what it's like to be LGBTQ and out would be relevant right now, for example.
Further questions? Senator Neadery.
What is your plan for working with people who are different than you?
I have learned to sit down and just have an open mind. I know that I've struggled with that in the past, especially in the first semester. I've figured that having just an open conversation and staying level-headed is very important with working with people that have differing opinions with me.
Further questions for the speaker? Seeing none, if you could wait outside with the other candidates, and we'll come get you. All right, now we will move into debate on the candidates, and it will go in the order that they presented. So we'll start with speakers on behalf of Josh, and then Hannah, and then John. So I'm now entertaining a speaker for Josh. Attorney General Hanneman.
You're so questionable about that.
All right, guys. Hi. I have had the privilege of knowing both Joshua Arnoldi and Ryan Kelly for quite a while, and I think the speaker and speaker pro temp positions work hand in hand and need to be a team that cooperates and benefits one another in different ways. And I think Joshua Arnoldi is the person that will best benefit Ryan Kelly working forward and moving this legislative body forward. Joshua Arnoldi, I met him when I was in high school and had the privilege of working on a state officer team with him, and have had the privilege to continue to work with him throughout the last few years. And something that Ryan Kelly is extremely good at is organization and communication. And I think moving into this next year, I think that's something that absolutely is needed by our speaker pro temp. Especially with the issues of sending legislation and the upcoming changes that may be happening with the diversity programming committee and all of the trainings that want to be continued into the future. I think he could be a wonderful person to help organize all of that and keep Senate moving forward. Additionally, Ryan Kelly, I've had the privilege of knowing him, like I said, and he's a very passionate, wonderful human being who is not always the most organized. Sorry, shout out at ya. And I think Joshua would do a wonderful job complementing Ryan and making this an extremely effective team for our student senate. So that is why I am speaking on behalf of Joshua. I will stand for questions.
Questions for Attorney General Hanneman? Seeing none, are there speakers for Senator Heatherman? Senator Penny.
Hey guys, I'm going to take just a second to speak in favor of Hannah. I had the privilege this semester to be in a finance class with her. I did not know her prior to this, but became friends through that. And through this finance class, I realized a few things about her that are in tune, very important to the role as Speaker Pro Tem. And those two things being diligence and demeanor. So I'm going to start on diligence. With the work that I've seen her do prepping for this, I'm truly amazed. She sat down with all of the key players. She's learned everything that she can, and she has taken her role as someone who is not in SGA to multiply on that and bring in that diverse thought and see this role from the outside and think, what can I do? And she's been diligent in that, and that is so important when we look for who our pro tem is. And then also demeanor. The Speaker Pro Tem is going to be running the DPC meetings and going to be in a lot of those key meetings, especially with DPC. You have to be approachable and you have to have that soft demeanor. In those, you are going to be working with international students who English may not even be their first language, and people are very, very different from you. We need someone who people feel comfortable knocking on her door, going in, sitting down, speaking with her, talking about the issues that they're facing. And if you guys could tell tonight, I think out of the three, she is the most approachable, and that is one of her very strong strengths, which is perfect for Speaker Pro Tem. I'll be voting for Hannah, and I implore you to do the same. I would also add that I think Hannah would make a great compliment for Ryan in that fact too, and they do an amazing job leading the legislative branch this year, and I stand for questions.
Questions for Senator Penny? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Senator Cole. Senator Spellman.
Sorry, y'all, I'm short. So I would really encourage you guys to vote for Jonathan Cole. I've actually had the opportunity to know him for going on 2 years now. I've seen him grow as a leader, as an activist. He's super passionate about what he does, and he's very vocal about what he does. Just those leadership qualities, I think they can be narrowed down to 2 big points. The first one's leadership. When I first met him, I was an engineering major. Not anymore. But I've had the opportunity to look up to him as an engineering major, seeing just how passionate he is about what he does, and just to see how smart and how intelligent he can actually use those skills and apply them into basically whatever he's doing, regardless of whether it's focusing on his studies or actually taking that knowledge and applying it to the community. But the other big point that I have is him just being passionate, and I think that really complements Ryan and what he's trying to do as now speaker. And just looking at Jonathan, what he's been involved in, I've sat with him for the last year as an at-large member at Senate. I've come to meetings just to see kind of what Senate does, what SGA has the opportunity to do. And having him by my side as an at-large member, that meant a lot to me. It meant that he was willing to stand up, show that he has that commitment, and show that moving forward that he has those skills and the ability to lead as Speaker Pro Temp. So for that reason, I would really encourage you to vote for Jonathan Cole, and I stand for questions.
Questions for Senator Spellman? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Senator Arnoldi. Senator DiMaranville.
also a little bit short. So I like to keep my thoughts a little bit organized, so I'm going to have a paper here. But I have had the absolute pleasure to know Joshua for about 4 years now. We met in the same organization that he met Attorney General Hanneman. And, you know, it's one thing that Josh has held many leadership positions, not only in his high school career, but also on campus. And that has made him take initiative to solve problems, as well as take leadership in many, situations that were not always easy. As long as I've known Joshua, he has always been responsible and organized. He is dedicated to his work and is willing to adapt to any situation. So his time working as an RA has given him direct access to not only resources that can greatly benefit SGA if he is elected, but he also has a line to the students. He is willing to put himself out there to make sure students are comfortable at SGA and on the campus. Josh also has experience with diversity. So this is a strength not only for Josh, but also for SGA. One of our biggest focuses over the last year has been diversity and diversity training and understanding. And I think for Josh, he has that experience from different organizations and activities on campus, and that can provide SGA with more mobility to continue to create a diverse Senate. So Josh is approachable, and as you can see, he's very charismatic and kind. His platforms, which are action-oriented open period speakers, increase organization and transparency, and partnering in the Diversity Programming Committee are all vital to making sure SGA holds itself accountable for its actions. Josh is the kind of leader that I aspire to be. He works well with others, and he wants to continue to work well with others. He is a genuine person, and he wants to make a difference in SGA as well as on this campus. This is why Josh has and will continue to have my full support and faith. So I stand down for questions.
Questions for Senator De Moranville? Seeing none, we'll move on to Senator Heatherman. Okay. Senator Whitmore.
I defer my speaker rights to Sadie Wilson.
Hi guys. To kind of start off my debate, I really want to challenge you all to think about one of the scariest decisions you've ever had to make. For me, it's happening right now, talking in front of you all, because if you would have asked me a year ago if I would be speaking to a Senate body, I would have been like, you are crazy, oh my gosh. But here I am, because I've spent the last year as a director in the executive branch, and I've become very passionate about SGA, and that's something I want you to think about when you're voting today. Hannah obviously doesn't have the most experience in SGA, but something I would really like to point out is that she is overcoming something that is super scary. She just talked to you all for 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, about why she's passionate about SGA and why she wants to make a difference. This is something I really admire her for, and something, like I said, I really want you to consider. A couple months ago, I've known Hannah for about a year now, and a couple months ago, she texted me and was like, should I run for Senate? And I was like, yes, always. And so she did, and I was super excited for her when she won and told all her friends for her. And then a couple weeks ago, she was like, should I run for Speaker Pro Tem? And I was like, yeah, of course. You definitely should when you're passionate about something, and that's something really awesome that I've seen in her. Another thing I want to point out are two of her strengths. One being learner. Being a college of business student, something we talk about all the time is that human skills, soft skills, are more important than technical skills. So I believe in this position, she has the capability to learn all that she has not yet to experience. It's very easy to be approachable and to have human skills if that's something you've been practicing for years, and I believe she has been. Another strength of hers is futuristic. This is something I see in a lot of us that are in SGA. We're looking towards the future of our university and what we want to see happen with our time here. And as a new senator and as someone who is kind of putting it all out there to run for a position as big as Speaker Pro Tem, I see that futuristic quality in Hannah, and I think it's a beautiful one that would pair well with SGA. Something else I'm very passionate about is education in Senate. Like I said, last year I, on a whim, applied for cabinet, and it's been one of the most rewarding experiences ever. I was never an intern. I never went through a new, like, senator, SGA member orientation, and I kind of had to teach myself all of what Senate is, and had to participate to learn. Something I think that's really awesome about Hannah's platforms are her focus on new senator orientation, which I know we have been implementing. That's something I feel passionate about, and I hope that you all can recognize as well. In conclusion, I think Hannah has some of the best like people skills and, like previous speakers have mentioned, approachability, and I think she would make a very great speaker pro tem, and I'd really like you to consider that tonight when you're voting. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Director Polson? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Senator Cole. Senator Leverett.
Hey y'all. So yeah, I want to speak about for in favor of Jonathan Cole. I have the pleasure of getting to know him for the last semester, and three things that come to mind as I got to know him is that John is super dependable. He's passionate, and he offers a very unique leadership experience that a lot of us aren't able to say. John served as student government vice president and treasurer of his previous institution. It really sets him up for this position in multiple capacities, as being the chair of different committees as a speaker pro tem would be. Also, a lot of university leaders really trust in John, myself, and other university leaders. So John, like he said before in his speech, he traveled to Michigan to learn more about intercultural learning and how he can implement this on our campus. And ever since then, he's been doing this work of diversity and including our diversity leadership. I also think that would be very huge for our student body because of his different intersectionalities and students that he represent on this campus, and it'd be huge for that visual representation that he said before for many students on our campus. And so, like I said, I fully trust in John's capabilities for this position, and I think he'll do an amazing job at this. So with that, I stand for questions.
Questions for Senator Leverett? Seeing none, moving on to Senator Arnoldi. Senator Bothwell.
So I wanted to be really brief and just talk about the impression that I got from meeting Joshua. I actually don't know Josh very well. I only met him through this past year being an intern in student government. And so it was really just through interactions in this room that I was able to get to know him. But my immediate impression upon meeting Joshua is that he's like one of the most organized, but also one of the most caring people I've ever met. He's constantly really well put together. He's always prepared on every issue. He's always got the agenda pulled up and following along. And he's also super like kind and caring. He's always asking me how I'm doing, even though I didn't know him that well. I was just a little intern. But he was constantly like concerned about what I was thinking about SGA, and I think that's a really important quality, particularly in all these talks that we're having about diversity and inclusion. I think it's great that our speaker pro tem would be someone who would be actively looking and caring about any students who are interested in this body. So that's meant a lot to me that he's been willing to do that. So I would hope that you guys see that quality in him too and would be willing to vote for him.
All right, questions for Senator Bothwell? Seeing none, moving on to Senator Heatherman. Senator Sullivan.
Hi guys, I'm Katie. I'll keep this short. Last week was my first official Senate, so I sat next to Hannah because yes, she seemed approachable, and she was very friendly. We struck up a conversation. She's a really nice person. But more than that, she worked her ass off this week. Like, she worked hard. She was emailing me her platform this week, and we were talking about it, and she asked if I could meet her in CSI today just to discuss her platform. And I couldn't because I was tabling in the union like all morning. So she came out, she found me at my table, and we had a nice conversation just like about what she stands for, and it was great. So yeah, I'm voting for her. I open for questions.
Questions for Senator Sullivan?
Okay.
Okay, if there aren't any. Moving on to Senator Cole. Senator Thomas.
So I know Hannah Heatherman pretty well. We're in the same sorority, and I've gotten to know her, and I echo how hard she's worked and done some incredible work to play catch up. And I came into Senate last year late in the game. I missed a couple Senates, and I had to do that too. I feel like there are a lot of people that join Senate really late, and then they have to play catch up, and it's kind of on them to do that, and that's so hard, especially when you don't have anyone to lean on. And I've also gotten to know John Cole really well, and the person that he is and the character that he has. And I think ultimately I've decided to put my vote behind John, and I kind of want to talk about why. I think people who were here in the room last semester are very familiar with John's face and his fiery personality. And I think in moments where students in our university were struggling, John really found a way to find his voice and put it to good use and really show students how important it is to stand up when you have an opinion and share that. And that's what student leaders in this room are supposed to do. That's what makes Senate so great, is when you do have an opinion and you are really fiery about something, that you find a way to share it, but you do that in a respectful manner. And I think John has spent the last maybe semester, maybe full year kind of learning how to harness his passion and drive it into a really, really focused, effective front. And I think that he would be a great speaker pro tem because he's learned how to fight for students. And I think that's so important in a speaker pro tem, that you're able to do that and advocate for all the students in the room while also maintaining your calm balance. And I think something that people have talked about a lot is DPC, and you want a friendly face and you want a softer face. And I think while that's important, diversity is something that students are fighting for on our campus. And you need someone who's going to be willing to go into the fire and, yes, be friendly and be able to have those conversations, but at the same time get things done. That's what we're in the room to do. I think it's important to have good relationships with administrators, with the people in this room, other senators, people on other branches. But at the end of the day, we are here doing and giving everything that we are to fight for students, and that's at the focus of what we do, and I think that John would be the best at that job.
All right, questions for Senator Thomas? If there are none, we will move on to Senator Arnoldy. Senator Kidd?
I move to call previous question.
We have to have 5 opportunities for debate on each person to call the previous question. So I'm looking for speakers for Senator Arnoldy. If there are none, we will move on to Senator Heatherman. Senator Cole. Senator Arnoldy. Any debate at all? All right, seeing none, we will now move into the ballot. Right.
Hand door 2, please.
if you don't have a ballot. Cool. Thanks. You should read it first.
All right. So out of the candidates, we did not get a majority. So the top two vote getters will move on. They will give a 2-minute speech, and then we will go into another round of debate. So those two top vote getters are Joshua Arnoldi and Jonathan Cole. So Senator Arnoldi, if you can come up to the front of the room and give a 2-minute speech, and Senator Cole, if you could step out.
A little bit taller. So I believe I'll just go ahead and retouch on the platforms that I stated earlier. So my first one was about the Diversity Planning Committee and my support to move that over to the Office of Diversity, just so that there is more support, both resource-wise, financially, and with the initiatives through the Office of Diversity. My next point was to clarify, open period speakers and being able to, organize open period speakers in a way that are the most beneficial to our students and maybe not necessarily just to inform our senators. And my final piece moving forward was to track our legislation. So, in a way that would be the most accessible both to senators and to the public as students, so that everybody on campus can be aware of what's happening in this room. So moving on from that, I think maybe I should just talk a little bit about myself. I loved that Sarah mentioned earlier that you share your strengths, and talking about strengths, I think I will share my strengths with you guys because that's the K-State way, right? We use our strengths quest. So my strengths are achiever, learner, input, intellection, and relator. So achiever is the most common strength, and I think it really describes me well. I go after what I like, or what I want, and I do the best job given to me from what I have. I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not in the business of doing good enough. I really want to take the time to make sure that this job is done well and is done to the absolute best of its ability. The next three are all in strategic thinking, learner, input, and intellection, and that is probably the best summary of how I operate. in terms of working with other leadership and working with people, I really tend to be more reserved and quiet and keep to myself in terms of I'm always thinking and I'm always analyzing and I'm always processing and organizing things in my head. And the times when I really choose to speak out are times when I foresee conflict in the future.
Speaker's time has expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Bothwell, sorry.
I move that we extend the speaker's time by 3 minutes.
Yeah, whatever.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that you have
Point of order. Is that allowed? I just don't know.
to extend the speaker's time. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know. Sorry.
Senator Arnoldi, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'll be quick. So as I was saying, I'm a strategic thinker, and that's really the basis on how I operate, and something that I can bring to the table is that strategic thinking side and the way of planning and organizing in the background. And my last strength was relator, and I think that also gives to an overall idea of how I work with other people. I really like to take ideas in and then be able to relate them to my own experiences in a way. So that's really how I operate with other people. And I think that being very close to empathy in those two strengths is actually an asset on this team, building between leadership and SGA, just because, you know, I will be able to work with other people and understand them in a different way. So with that, I guess I will stand for questions. Sorry, I didn't prepare for a second speech.
Awesome. Questions for Senator Arnoldi? Seeing none, if you could grab Senator Cole.
Right, thank you.
Great. Senator Cole, you have 2 minutes.
All right. Well, I'm thankful to be in the runoff election, so thank you for those who have voted for me. I really think that I stand out amongst everyone else because I have been consistently shown that I have a strong record with diversity, and that's such a big part of Speaker Pro Tem that it's like the best role for me right now. I've done a significant amount of work this whole entire academic year. I think it's demonstrated my ability to also work across different student groups here on campus and reaching out to them as well. Touching on my experience within SGA, I've helped out a little bit here. I've also had prior SGA experience at Butler Community College, serving as vice president and treasurer. And all of that's just given me so much perspective and so much experience that I feel like I'm the most qualified person to get the pro tem position. I don't want to take up too much more time because we've been here for a little bit, so I stand for questions.
All right, questions for Senator Cole. Senator Brown.
You mentioned previously that you went to Michigan and did some work. Could you talk with Adrian? Could you talk some more about that?
Yeah, so the One Family Initiative with Elia Meshevich-C, she's been in contact with Michigan, and they have a very unique diversity and inclusion program there. They call it Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Work. They have like 3 multicultural student centers. They have a huge room dedicated to their LGBT resource center. They have a diversity overlay on all their curriculum. All their people who are in res halls and on-campus living have to go through some sort of diversity training. They each have each of the res halls has their own room that you have to learn about the person that the room is named after in order to get access into it. So they have one named after Rosa Parks, for example. All of those, there's so many ideas that I could hit on that it would take the whole entire night if I went through all of them. But there's a lot of work that I can bring from that Michigan trip to K-State to overall make our community better.
Further questions? All right, seeing none, we'll come get you when the election's over. Oh, yeah, that's right. We will now look for speakers for Senator Arnoldy. Senator Heatherman.
Hey, me again. So I just wanted to testify that I've personally worked with Joshua several times in the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. And I think that, we're constantly talking about diversity and like underrepresentation. And I think that that school within the College of Arts and Sciences as a whole is highly underrepresented in student government. And so I think he could bring a really neat perspective to that, as well as, his involvement in the marching band, concert ensembles, all those types of things. Those tend to involve a ton of different diverse backgrounds, whether that be ethnic, cultural, sexuality, diversity majors, etc. And I think that would make him an excellent leader of DPC. So that's it.
All right, questions for Senator Heatherman? You're fine. Now we'll move on to Senator Cole. Seeing none, Senator Arnoldy. Is there any debate at all? All right, if not, we will now move into a secret ballot vote.
You have to raise your hand. Don't drink coffee.
All right, Senate. In a vote of 30 to 19, our next Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate is Joshua Arnoldy.
Please raise your. Okay. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of the Student Governing Association and will do to the best of my ability to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kent State University Student Governing Association.
I will.
All right. Name, where you from, and if you had to be in a fictional world, which one would it be? If you had to be in a fictional world, which one would you be in?
Fictional world. Okay. So my name is Joshua Arnoldi. I'm a music composition major and a junior. My hometown is Downs, Kansas, North Central Kansas. If I had to be in a fictional world, I think I'd have to go with Harry Potter. Like.
All right, see y'all later.
All right, so moving on from elections, we'll now go into introduction of legislation. Is there a motion to consider Bill 1? Senator Kidd.
I move Bill 1. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 1. Will the author please come forward? Senator Thomas.
I move the author be allowed to summarize. Second. Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. The author be allowed to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you may summarize. Senator Neatery.
I move that the author be able to summarize on all of her bills.
Second.
God bless you all.
Are there any objections? Awesome. You can summarize.
All right, so I'm going to read the whereas clauses. It is necessary to continuously review the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Constitution. The Chancellor of Student Tribunal no longer fulfills the role of the KSU SGA Attorney General when they are unable to perform and discharge the duties of the office of the KSU SGA Attorney General. The KSU SGA Deputy Attorney General fulfills the role of the KSU SGA Attorney General when they are unable to perform and discharge the duties of the office of the KSU SGA Attorney General, and the following language has been reviewed by the SGA Judicial Branch, the Office of General Counsel, and the Office of Student Life in accordance with the KSU SGA bylaws, Article 5, Section 15, Subsection A. So essentially, what this bill is doing is changing our constitution to read that the KSU SGA Deputy Attorney General now takes over when the Attorney General cannot be present. So previously, it was the Chancellor of Student Tribunal, and that is no longer a thing. And the Deputy Attorney General has been a position that we've had informally for the last 4 years, and it just hasn't been officially changed in our documents. So I wanted to get it done before I left.
Questions for the speaker? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 2? Senator Bothwell.
I move that we consider Bill 2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we consider Bill 2. Will the author please come forward?
Hello. So this is essentially the same thing, except it is doing it to our bylaws instead of our constitution. Additionally, something I'd really like to point out is that we are removing the Judicial Executive Council. The Judicial Executive Council has not existed within the judicial branch in over 4 years, and many of those duties of the Judicial Executive Council are already being fulfilled by other leadership positions within the judicial branch. So none of those duties are just going away and vanishing into thin air. We already have our student review board chair, our Chancellor of Student Tribunal, and our Deputy Attorney General fulfilling those positions.
Questions for Attorney General Hanneman? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 3? Senator Wilhelm.
I move we consider Bill 3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we consider Bill 3. Will the author please come forward?
Beautiful. So again, the same thing, except this is replacing all of the places in our bylaws that it says Chancellor of Student Tribunal with KSU SGA Deputy Attorney General for things that they are responsible for.
Questions for the speaker? Seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 4? Senator Carpenter.
I move to consider Bill 4. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we consider Bill 4. Haley.
Hi. So this one is actually changes to responsibilities of the SGA Attorney General.
So this is essentially saying that the Attorney General can appoint and remove the Deputy Attorney General in consultation with the student body president, and that appointment is subject to the approval of Student Senate. And then same with appoint and remove the Student Review Board Chair and the Student Tribunal Chancellor, who is also appointed in consultation with the student body president and subject to the removal or subject to the approval of Student Senate. And then I think our last change was we put in a couple of different meetings that I'm required to attend that haven't been in our documents that I would like to see that our future attorney generals make sure they go to.
Questions for the speaker? Seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 5? Senator Wilhelm.
I move to consider Bill 5.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we consider Bill 5. Will the author please come forward?
Well, wait, it's not.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Just taking the legislation with me.
All right, I'm just going to read the whereas clauses also. Whereas it is necessary to continuously review the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, SGA, I need to change documents.
Sorry, I didn't turn the page.
No, this is still the right one. The practices in place regarding the Parking Citation Appeals Board have not matched the written procedures set forth in the KSU SGA bylaws in over 4 years. Clarification was needed for many parking services policies. The KSU Attorney General does not have the expertise to handle parking appeals and is removed from the process. These changes have been approved by KSU Parking Services, and the following language has been reviewed by the SGA Judicial Branch, the Office of General Counsel, and the Office of Student Life in accordance with the KSU SGA Bylaws, Article 5, Section 15, Subsection A. So the changes we're making change the Parking Citation Appeals Board process for appeals. Currently, there's 3 tiers of appeals, which is kind of excessive and there's a lack of finality. At one point, you'd go through an initial hearing into a second hearing and eventually reach the Attorney General. And we decided that the Attorney General couldn't contribute in a relevant way to these parking citation appeals and remove them from the process. Additionally, there was a formal hearing that existed for this, but hadn't been done in 4.5 years, and we removed that from the bylaws as it was excessive and had never happened. And then we made language changes so the language is more consistent between documents. And that's all I have.
All right, questions for the speaker? All right. We will now move into second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Senator Adams.
The Veteran Student Organization has their CrossFit Challenge next weekend. So if you want to do that, it is $10 for up to 5 people on a team. So you can go out to kstatevso.com to sign up.
Director Moore.
If any of you are interested in a Fulbright U.S. student grant, so that would be attending like graduate school in fall of 2019 in the UK, or being an English teaching assistant in over 70 countries abroad, come talk to me. I'll get you connected with the right people. We can start having those conversations this spring if you want to apply next fall.
Further open period speakers? Student Body President Keel.
Okay, I'm about to send out an email that has 3 different events that are going on, so make sure to just read through those and see if you can attend them. It would be really great if we can get some SGA members there. And I also put my phone number and my email in that email that I'm sending out. So feel free to reach out to me within the next week. Thanks, guys.
Further speakers? Senator Kidd.
I'll keep this really brief. So part of my job, as I mentioned kind of last week with the Alumni Association, is student programs. Sorry about the not about the chips. So part of my role involves running our Walk Catch Ever program. It's like a student-based membership program. And so for the summer, if anyone's going to be in town and wants some extra money, dinero, moolah, whatever, if you're wanting a job, feel free to get at me. You can send me a resume and I'll fill out a qualification. It's great. And you'll get federal minimum wage. So $7.25 an hour, and they'll also give you commission for every Wildcats Forever membership you sell. So holla back, yeah. So good opportunity to make some money and just talk talk with me for more details. I also wanted to say another quick reminder about Grad Bash on May 3rd. Tell your graduating friends. Free food and everything. Senators are more than welcome to stop by after the seniors are gone to get some free food too. So that's it.
All right. Are there any other open period speakers? Senator Porter.
Yes. So, hi there. So Leadership Studies Ambassadors are putting on a summit around activism this weekend. It's on Sunday from 11 to 3. Really cool training, especially being student leaders on campus. There's an implicit bias workshop and other student organizations that are involved with work similar to that also making an appearance too. So yeah, go to that. The Leadership Studies building, like I said, 11 to 3. You can just walk in. There's a registration, but I do not know that off the top of my head. So free lunch. And there is free lunch too. So that's always nice.
Further second open period speakers. All right, seeing none, we'll move into reference of legislation. Bills 1 through 5 are going to be referred back to the Senate Executive Committee. And now we'll move into second roll call.
Okay. Adams.
Here.
Alberts. Anderson.
Here.
Armstrong.
Here.
Belk.
Here.
Bergston.
Here.
Bowler.
Here.
Bothwell.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Carpenter.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
Colgleiser. Cruz.
Here.
Davis. DeMoranville.
Here.
Dunfield.
Here.
Gilbert. Gammon. Grover.
Here.
Hammond.
Here.
Harp.
Here.
Heatherman.
Here.
Hildreth.
Here.
Hopfinger. Jabin.
Here.
Karamali.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Thanks. King.
Here.
Conrad. Kulkarni.
Here.
Leverett.
Here.
Marr.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Nedry.
Here.
Orth.
Here.
Pelton.
Here.
Penny.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Riffle.
Here.
Roman.
Here.
Smith. Spellman.
Here.
Spencer.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Chumlin.
Here.
Tuttle.
Here.
Valdez.
Here.
Wessel.
Here.
Wilhelm.
So here.
Good to know. Yoganandan. Whitmer.
Here.
And then if you were just sworn in tonight and I did not call your name, then just come forward so I can add you to this list really quick. Thanks.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Senator Kidd.
I move we adjourn until next week, same time, same place.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Is there any objections? All right.
I got you.
We're adjourned.
I realized my
Yeah, you're good. You got me. Okay.
I like it. You
Yeah, I don't want to be. Pretty sure.
I won't be sending beams anymore if you're solid.
There's worse.
I can have someone like tap into me after like we'll have 5 people and then so like we actually
No, I had one from last thing.
there's not a thing on that.
Everyone's like, I just saw
No, it wasn't actually.